Good morning. Welcome in to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. See, we got another signage over here. You see this?
Oh yeah, they don't mess around.
They're getting after it. That's DB.
That's pretty cool though, right? When you have a business partner, which in essence this is a partnership, and you hold up your end of the bargain ASAP.
Yep.
Pretty good.
We like it.
I kind of like the PE too.
It's a good logo. I enjoy it. Yeah,
little negative space action going on.
Well, and you kind of got the pillar and the P. You like that? I'm a big pillars guy, as you might imagine.
That's kind of weird because you asked me as though I was maybe hovering around 68, 69 IQ. Of course, I can see the pillar.
Well, listen. Sometimes in logos,
I
things
feel
are
like you've been
watching
TikTok and you're like, what do you see? If you see this, then you're depressed. I was like, how'd this get on my timeline? It's been a couple of days since I've been depressed.
2 whole days, you're doing good.
Well, listening to the Lakers Pelicans game last night almost made me depressed. And
hey, you got the dub. That's all right.
Yeah, Reggie Miller's badass job.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
It's kind of I'm not gonna go off on Reg. We'll chill. LeBron still drives me up the wall.
You know what bummed me out?
Not sure if the Pels were on the take last night, but I'm glad they were.
LeBron James.
What do you mean?
What happened with Zion Williamson? Did somebody blow on him?
Well, that's kind of his deal,
bro. Like, what happened though?
He just landed weird.
Oh, did he?
Because that's what they're saying.
It didn't look like much.
I mean, he's a big man. It doesn't take much.
Dude, You know
what bummed me out though?
And I'm not gonna body shame anybody because I mean, hey, man, people eat what they want, and you know.
And genetics. He has actually leaned out a little.
No, not really, but
from the earlier this year,
but he was 40 some pounds overweight.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he's in good shape.
Yeah,
And listen, this is me talking, so like I get it. It's ironic, but like
Alanis Morissette or
a little too, it's like rain on your wedding day.
Yeah, when you're already late.
A free ride when you're already paid.
Yeah.
It's freaking bats.
It's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. It's like meeting the man of your dreams.
And then his lovely wife.
Isn't it ironic? Anyway.
No, but
I hope we do get rain, though.
We got some rain. We got a lot of rain yesterday.
It's okay.
I mean, it's a pretty good amount.
We're evening out.
I look at the forecast. We're supposed to get a little bit of rain. But it ended up being a pretty nice night for baseball.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's a couple narratives I'm over.
Yeah.
I hate the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
This is the one.
Nebraska doesn't care about the game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah. Creighton.
Number one, Creighton was that 10 out of 12?
10 out of 12.
Okay. And Nebraska's lost 5 out of the last 6.
Yeah, Nebraska's not playing well right now.
And Nebraska, I'd be curious. I may ask Brunsey if I would have had time. I should have done it. I'd like to know Nebraska's midweek record in the last 3 years. Because it's not good.
You should text him that before we talk to him tomorrow.
Okay.
So he has a chance.
Well, by then I could probably do it myself.
I know, but it's more fun if you make somebody else do your stuff.
Oh, okay. Wow. We could not have been partners in high school.
No, I was the guy that ended up doing all this stuff.
Of course, you were assumed to be smart, right?
Well, I mean, I was smart.
See, I was, but I was assumed to be not.
I was assumed to
for whatever the reason.
Yeah, there's probably no stereotypes going on.
Zero.
No, but I was.
It's Northwest, the land of bountiful opportunities.
I was assumed to be hardworking and like academically minded, which I maybe wasn't super. I was kind of just, hey, I'm going to show up and it's going to work out. But I ended up doing a lot of work on projects because people were like, this guy.
I work hard in school.
I work hard in school. Hello. Good morning.
Also,
Katie. Good morning, Shane.
I'm a little bit of a control freak also.
That's a shocker because I would never guess by the rundowns and the controlling of the show. And do you want me to do this? And I'm just not used to it because somehow I assumed over the course of my years to do some of the lifting.
Well,
whether it be heavy.
Listen.
But this is like I work with part of the Gestapo. Like, this dude is OC. But I just can't. They're not good in midweek games.
No.
They haven't been good in midweek games. And the way Nebraska's played Creighton the last couple of times would further show you it's not any more important. Creighton just executes better. And I hate to say that out loud.
Creighton's been better.
You don't have the come from behind wins. And they've had to be grimy.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Nebraska made
and they blew opportunities.
Closed the game. On the second, whatever it was, and Creighton came back and extended the lead. Like they could have panicked, they didn't. Nebraska still battled. Nebraska's gonna battle, right? They grind out ABs, and it's not always pretty. It's not about meaning more. It's about what happens in execution. So stop with the it just means more. It doesn't. Like
No.
This isn't. Now, was it maybe early? Sure, it was a little Iowa, Nebraska, right? Iowa, Nebraska series used to really, really, really bug me because Iowa enjoyed beating the heck out of Nebraska. Nebraska players were just kind of like,
is what it is.
Yeah, and around, B. Riley's like senior year, he's like, hey, man, this is starting to
get a little ridiculous.
And it wasn't even bad yet then.
No.
It's awful now.
Yeah.
It was just bad then.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was a little bit like that with Creighton, Nebraska baseball, but it's
not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
I mean, Creighton just they just battle, man. It's
well, and they're good, right? It's not like this isn't one of those.
Yeah, that's the most important thing.
This isn't one of those Ed Service teams that you kind of look and scratch your head and you're like, how do they ever score runs? I mean, you look at this lineup, and whether it's Dieter going yard twice, maybe a little bit wind-aided, or just the actual absolute bomb that Canales hit.
That's what happens when you put the ball in play, though.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you give yourself opportunity. And when you put the ball in play with good players, right? When you've got good hitters and they're able to barrel the ball up, then good things happen, right? Because, listen, Nebraska in the ninth inning had a couple of opportunities where I thought that they were either going to tie the game up or make it interesting.
And it's kind of been their bugaboo over the last month.
Wall.
Just
couldn't get it.
Yep.
And listen, I thought it was an incredible call by our guy Johnny the Bish, the Winds of Change call. Incredible.
Yeah, I got to give it to him. And I like Bish anyway, so it's easy.
Yeah.
Oh, he touched it. He touched it.
But the winds of change blowing Creighton's way again, or something like that. Honestly.
Yeah.
That's pretty creative.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But I was on my man LP's call because obviously watching it on television, and I'm a big L Punk guy, and I don't think at any point they thought that was going out.
No. I mean, you could hear Bishop didn't either.
Yeah.
Because he just goes
very chill.
He goes, oh, this might tie it up like it was
sack.
Yeah, sack or maybe guts off the wall or something like that. And then he goes, oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
It just kind of gets the wind was a factor last time. I'm not gonna pretend like it wasn't.
Well, it's the Midwest and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, everybody's playing under the same conditions. It's not like it was better for one team than another.
R.I.P. Nightbird. Nebraska's got some. So
they got some bullpen issues they got to figure out.
Yep.
Kyle
did I text you that or did I say that? I texted to you, right?
Yeah, you texted.
Yeah,
me.
that's 2 out of 5 now.
Yeah, you might have a Kyle Perry problem
with late 9 squanders, and I get it because I'm a KP guy. And it started with watching him in hoops in middle school. Like his whole,
you go way back.
Yeah, I remember when his whole crew went to Millard South, and Coach Lucian. Like that's kind of where the lore of Coach Lucian really started to grow. It's like, man, look at these guys develop, maximizing, and they were always good. And I get it. Don't text me. I know that was independent of my man Tyrell transferring from North to Millard South, who was spectacular for them. So I'm a KP guy, but something the mojo, man. I don't know if. He had the arm issues. He came back from injury.
Like a confidence deal there.
Maybe.
I will say also
because it's identical situations, right?
Yeah.
Coming in the 9th with a lead, and it getting away from you, and that's I think that's 2 out of 5, 2 out of 4, 2 out of 5.
I will say
2 out of 4 game. Shane, do you know? Are you Rolodex? Are you guys going?
We're 5-7. We got to practice.
I don't think that's what he meant there, but I will say
I wasn't even talking to Coach Rule this time.
This time we will
just the lowlights.
I will say
that's future.
The mental part of being a closer is way more dramatic than people give it credit for, even in college, right?
Oh, yeah, ask Sears.
So even if you get into a position where, like maybe it's not a confidence thing, maybe it's just hey, I had this kind of little break thing, I got out of my groove, and now it's hard to find again. This is one of the things that didn't work out with Moneyball. Was the closer by committee idea. That was one of their core tenets.
Yeah, unless you were Tampa. But
Right.
yes.
But for the most
for
part,
the most part, you're 100% right.
one of their core tenets was, hey, don't overpay closers. You can do it by committee.
Yeah.
And what they found out is like, yeah, not everybody's wired that way. You kind of have to be a little bit off to be a high-end closer and have this sort of irrational level of confidence. And if you lose that, I mean, we see it all the time with relievers, right? Guys that are the best reliever, best closer in the game one year and are out of the league 2 years later.
Mhm.
We see it all the time. And maybe Cal Perry's going through just a little bit of a bump in his confidence, his whatever, his swagger, whatever you want to call it, right?
I was just on the positive. I was just glad to see Clarkie get off to
Oh, he had a nice
get
start.
off to a good start.
Yeah,
Because the funny thing, you're speaking of emotions, he's capable.
100%.
And there aren't a lot of guys on the staff like him.
No,
So you'd like to see that.
pretty good. I mean, pretty good stuff.
And he's he's the right hand.
Yeah,
Oh, the good,
the better hand.
the better hand, I
yeah,
guess.
right
I would
hand
say.
gets a little confusing
Yeah.
there in the
It's
context.
hard to have those good guys take the bump
Yeah.
as lefties. So it's like,
When he's got a little bit of juice in terms, like he's sits around like 89, 90.
yeah, it's okay. It
I mean,
sounds
for a
weird to
college
say that,
for
right?
a college lefty, it's not bad.
If I was seeing Scott Heiser or Sean Peterson in high school, that would have been throwing hard.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be, right?
Right? Like that was hard.
But a lefty at 90 in college is pretty good.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not.
Like that's pretty.
I couldn't hit it.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's like anymore. Well, for a long time, actually, probably about 20 years before I could hit that. Anyway, the thing about it is, there are some. You played a lot of that game like you wanted to if you're a coach. Coach, it's when you get the oi or the o's with coach like Coach Hoiberg, and you're like, wait,
Yeah.
it's just Coach Hoiberg. Why can't you? Like, why can't I press the tongue against the roof of
Thank
my
you, guys.
mouth like I'm supposed to? Well, I'm not talking to Coach Hoiberg either. I'm talking to Coach Bolt.
It's important. I mean, most of those guys think it's easy.
Yeah, well, that's true in baseball. But you kept it close. You were ahead. You went into the ninth inning with a lead. Like, he'll take if you just fast forwarded to that.
You'd be like, yeah, I'll take it.
Every day.
I will take that situation.
Every day.
I'll take it.
Doesn't matter the opponent. Doesn't matter.
You just happen to run into a team that didn't give a darn.
If you say, hey, you're going into the ninth inning with a lead, you will take that every day of the week, right? But Creighton battles, as you said, and they're good. Like you can battle all you want. If you don't have any talent, it's not going to matter a lot.
No, that would be the thing.
Right.
Yep.
And Creighton's actually got a really nice ball club and a nice lineup this year. And again, we talked about this before, just not a terribly traditional ed service team in the way it's constructed.
Used the DH, paid dividends last night
with Canales.
Yeah, with Canales and hitting in Grace.
That was not a wind dated home run. That one was that one I think he got all of.
That is Dre 3000 and Big Boy. That was like bombs over. Wasn't bombs over Baghdad. It was bombs in baseball.
Yeah,
bombs over Baghdad.
Yeah,
That's fine.
That was a shot. One.
Were you an Outcast guy, Shane? You've been an Outcast your whole life, but you probably spelled yours with a C. They spelled theirs with a K.
It was more of an Andre 3000 than a Big Boy guy myself.
Big Boy said nice little renovation.
Yeah, no, he does.
Most people in his industry, he's got something to say about
just about
what's
everything.
going on lately in the music industry.
Just about everything.
But I just this means.
Yeah, I'm not.
Listen, Creighton is good, and Nebraska has a thing with midweek games.
Yeah, there's an issue there, and we'll talk to Brunsey probably more about that tomorrow as we get into some crucial weekend series for both teams. Obviously, Creighton has after Villanova this weekend, they've got a nice little home stretch of Coastal Carolina, Georgetown, and then the third game with Nebraska. So they've got a pretty important 6-game stretch here coming up after if they can take care of business out at the Little League park they play at in Philadelphia. But
tough situations too for Nebraska, right? You got the high leverage pitching situations and then plate appearances with pups at the plate. Like that was
it's hard to weather both of those at the same time.
Oh, you take a look at two decent pitches and then you go get one you try to go get one in the dirt. You're like, in my head, I was like, ooh, that is nerve.
Yeah. You got to
That-
have a
that-
little bit more poise at the plate.
Yeah, listen.
It's hard. It's hard.
Situationally,
It's hard to
I
do.
mean, they were asking a lot of him.
It's hard to do.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it'll be a learning moment. But Nebraska got to get right because, you know, your top 25 team, and I go back to, and I get it. Creighton had some hiccups over the weekends in the last 2 weeks since I said this.
Mm-hmm.
But remember when Nebraska first made the top 25, I was like, there's a lot of Creighton fans that are like raising their hand. Hey, we need to be ranked.
Yeah, like what about us?
We need to be ranked
Yeah.
as well.
And I mean, they lost a couple to Xavier last weekend, but
That's what, yeah.
about the only team in the Big East.
And
who
at
can
the time
afford-
that I had said that,
they hadn't yet.
they hadn't
Yeah.
yet. And Xavier is a quality
Yeah.
baseball program.
Xavier's not bad losses for Creighton. That's about the only team in league that they can afford to lose a series to and not have it be detrimental.
It's an awful big word this morning.
Detrimental?
See,
Well, I told you, I was the smart kid. I just wasn't terribly academically inclined.
did you?
Means I was smart but a bad student.
I was gonna ask.
Well,
you.
no, go ahead.
No,
go ahead. Let's ask it.
No,
Let's do it.
I was just on a whim. I was
Yeah.
going to ask if you could spell it, but I didn't want to hear your mouth was something smart. Like, of course, I could spell detrimental. So
You want me to
no,
do it?
no.
My-
Not gonna get into the old spelling bee thing.
My people are historically
Stop.
good at
Just
spelling
you know,
bees.
in the name of love.
I'm just like in the track record of people who win the spelling bee.
Shane, was that Martha and the Vandellas? Would you know that? Who was
No.
Who was stopping the name of love?
I'm just saying there's more Lullas and Patels in that group than there is like Smiths and Johnsons. That's all I'm saying. That's all.
Williams.
Maybe a couple.
Oh, that was the Supremes.
Maybe-
I
Yeah, it
know
was the Supremes.
Yeah, well, listen, I was
That's
close.
helpful now. Thank you, Shane. I've got a couple Agarwals in there as well.
That's fine.
Couple of what?
Agarwal. It's a nice traditional Indian name. Maybe a Chaudhry every just whatever.
I'm sure.
That's totally
I'm
on me.
sure your mom just has to shake her head sometimes.
I mean, listen, it's at least part her fault.
Yeah, well,
I mean, like, you know, you just got to take some responsibility here a little bit.
take the good, you take the bad.
And with it, you get me.
Shane, when's hockey this week? Is it Friday or Monday?
It's on the 20th.
No, I know when it starts. When's our guess?
I was trying to set that up. The guy that we're going to get is from NHL.com, but we're waiting to see when the Rangers will be practicing. I was just telling Ravi this earlier.
Well, why didn't you tell me?
Because you weren't here quite yet.
Well,
We're waiting to see when
blame my daughter.
because he's going to be at the Rangers practice. But if he's available tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, we'll see what we can do there. Coming up on the show.
You're supposed to ask me why I asked that.
Hey, why'd you ask that?
Because it was crunch time for a couple of teams in a couple of divisions
In the
last
league?
night. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were some gaudy lines in hockey.
Yeah, I was locked in on the
Minus
NBA last night.
350s,
That's aggressive.
400s.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the last week in the last day in the NBA.
Yeah.
There were like 5 double like teens, like
Yeah.
13-point phase, 15-point phase. I'm like, what are we doing?
We got some teams packing it in here.
They just take them off the board.
Call it. Yeah. I don't know what the
Yeah, don't.
advantage of having those in there is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just I had a hard time last night. I mean, obviously the Warriors lost, but I expected that. That wasn't surprising.
Hey, so did you not think the Lakers were going to tank? I did.
There was
I did.
until Zion got hurt, quote unquote.
When it was 99-99, I was like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
they don't want to win this game.
I thought that
They
Zion
just cat hair bald. What's
Little-
your cat's name?
potato.
Yeah, I know something goofy like that. Lakers are out there acting like Potato had some stray hairs, man, just coughing them on up, man.
He doesn't really have like fur balls. I don't know. He doesn't.
that you know of.
Yeah, I don't hear him like cough stuff up at least,
Yeah.
or find him anywhere, which is good.
Is he an indoor or outdoor?
Indoor. My wife tried to make him an outdoor cat, and he ran away, and so I was like pretty mad at her. I was like, "Hey, we're not going to do that anymore." That's
Yeah, I
not-
don't know how you keep a cat enclosed. They can get to where they want to. They got
Yeah,
Jackson Carpenter vertical,
they got some agility. We've got the privacy.
and they can get like
Yeah, they
good
get
running
skinny
backs.
through the
They
hole.
can get skinny through the hole.
Yeah. Well, and we've got like the 6-foot privacy fence or whatever. They scale that thing like it's nothing.
Yeah,
They don't even care.
bouncy.
It's bouncy, and they got the claws. They can climb. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so we had to go pick up our own cat from the Humane Society.
wasn't pretty.
Because this dummy, instead of just like wandering around and coming back, he
Oh,
follows
snap.
some lady into her house. I was like, well, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we're not letting you out anymore, bud.
Nobody can do
Cats
that.
and strange.
Yeah, I was like, hey, let's not let the cat outside anymore.
Yeah,
That's not
cat's out of the proverbial bag.
yeah, out of the proverbial back door is where he kind of like jets out there.
Kind of like coaches taking the podium. Were there any cats let out of the bag yesterday?
Ooh, we'll get to some Coach Rule audio. I've got some thoughts. I also, I do this thing where I just keep thinking about things that he said.
Mm-hmm.
I love this. I've been listening to Coach Hurley, Danny Hurley, a lot.
And so I'll bring up.
These times I want him to take the podium and say, "Man, I've been listening to my man DB a lot."
I know that's why I just need him to be like, "Hey, I've been listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio."
What are
a
the
lot.
odds that will happen? Like 1
That's a
million.
great question. I don't know that.
none
Gosh,
I don't think it'll
ever happen.
No, I was gonna say I don't think he'll say Hurrdat Sports Radio. I think the chances that he name drops you are not terribly low.
It won't be something. It won't be something that he learned from me. It'll just be something stupid.
You
I
never
said.
know.
Like, yeah, I remember when you said such and such wasn't going to play. That's why I don't listen to you media
Shows
guys.
what you know.
Yeah, that's what it'll be.
Well, you never know. Maybe he'll like our Malcolm Gladwell references or something, or you never know.
I know he's a fan of the old Malcolm Gladwell.
We like.
By the way, enemy territory today.
Yeah.
Yeah, high school coaches clinic. Guess who's in town?
Uh-oh.
Kansas State.
Oh, gotta be careful there.
It's either 6 or 6:30.
They're gonna be a little hostility after we just stole Hayes from them, or
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna bring that up. I'm just gonna try to learn some things. Why would I?
I was just asking. You never know.
What the world is wrong with you?
Plenty.
I mean, how'd that Hayes thing go?
No shit.
What?
Oh, did you guys want him? Oh, that's my bad.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up on the show.
There'd be about another 120 coaches that would like to have the clinic still happen.
We've got Brian Christopherson at 8 o'clock from Husker 24/7. Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln at 8:30. And then our guy, Kevin Kugler, at 9. Coming up next, we'll hop into a little bit of that rural audio we reference and plenty more here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. On the Pillar Exterior stage, that was one coach, Matthew Rule.
Oh, I've never heard anybody go with the full government.
It felt weird. I didn't like it. I don't know what I did there.
Was it spontaneity or?
Yeah, sometimes I just decide to do stuff. I don't know if you've noticed that at all.
Yeah. Typically, I recommend against it, and this would be another one of those cases.
It's funny because in the open, you accuse me of being like OCD or whatever, and control freak. But I do, I write out the show and whatever, and
we never follow it.
Yeah, the amount of stuff that it's just there as like a security blanket. That's all.
And I don't mind. But the funny thing is, and you said it to me again yesterday. Like it's after the show, and you're like, yeah, we got a lot of stuff to get to this week because we didn't get to anything I wanted to get to today. And I was like, dude, that was a fantastic show. What are we talking about?
No, that's how I know it's a good show, is if we don't get to about 80% of the rundown. If I get through everything on the sheet, it was a bad show. Because we didn't get into anything, right?
It's a challenge.
Like, that's the truth.
All right. So this is the first time in my this is the first stretch in my radio career that is even a thing. Because if anybody thought there was any regiment to what I've done in the past, there wasn't.
Yeah.
Just knew a couple big ideas.
I don't even know why, but it's technical, right?
That's what I used to think, Shane. What he said.
I don't even know why, but it's technical, right?
It kind of reminds me, not to go back to the Dan Hurley offense or anything like that. But if people thought the way the show actually went is how I scripted it to go, they think it was the most elaborate thing in the world.
So, do you think Jacob's mad at me? Was I mean?
I didn't think you were mean.
Okay, because you guys go back and forth, but I've never really disagreed with Jacob before.
Yeah.
But he did. When he went to the
bargain for Grayson Allen.
No, that was preposterous.
Yeah.
I kind of let that ride at first. It was so I guess I don't understand the original point. Well, wait a minute. You just said what my original point was. And I felt bad but I have a tendency to do this. When I feel like people are moving off of what
you get mad at me for moving the goalposts all the time.
Yeah. See, coming from a guy that's failed a ton, sometimes you just got to eat it.
Yeah.
Right. So what I have a tendency to do is just grab what you said or what I said and just start there. Don't make up anything else.
Yeah.
Just read.
And here's my thing. I will eat it, but I will take every
No.
Hold on.
No.
I will take every
Nah.
opportunity and do everything I can not to eat it before I have to.
You're still debating generational talent. You haven't eaten a thing.
That's because he is a generational talent. He's just not generationally productive. And Bo Jackson's still overrated, so I don't know what to tell you.
You in a good mood or what?
Let's get to some Coach Rule.
Is there anybody else I'm missing?
Yeah. This guy's sitting next to me. Thick, skulled, hard-headed.
Day after day after
absolutely.
day.
Yeah.
You listen, if you're actually able to pin me down, I'll eat it.
You can work a lot.
Well, good luck.
You can learn a lot. Dude, I can do it in my sleep.
Good luck.
I just have to build your confidence up.
You just can't do it while you're awake, huh?
It's not good enough.
Exactly, Coach.
You
He's
saying it-
not.
You saying it
One
only,
more time. What's wrong with Ravi?
It's not good enough.
I know.
So you're saying it only happens in your dreams? Is that what you're telling me?
Iron
I think
sharpens
that's a
iron.
song. But sometimes you will get sparks, Coach Rule. Sometimes you do get sparks.
Like Bubba?
And I got up there and just crushed it.
Yep. That's like me with my 197-yard drive the other day.
You out there golfing a little bit?
Bomb.
Yeah.
Bomb.
I got the
How'd you like to hit a golf ball 197 yards? So what if you're doing that with your 7-iron?
I hate
I don't
golf.
care.
I was gonna say, was that like with a wedge or
Shut up. Nobody asked you.
so Rule talked yesterday.
Carried it 191. Take that.
Wait, so it only bounced like you hit into a wall?
Then you're cooking with gas.
What'd you do? How you carry 191? It only goes 197.
Stupid timely drop. Shane, beat it.
I don't know if I'm answering your question, Sam.
He's actually doing pretty good today with the drop.
Well, let's encourage an idiot.
I mean,
All right, y'all. Thanks, guys.
not saying I'm a huge fan, but like if you're on point, you kind of ride the hot streak, you know.
Yeah, all right. Like getting how
I mean,
many
it's like
getting how many carries in a row as a running back?
It's like
getting hot.
It's
Little
like a
louder?
little bit of Jonathan Kuminga thing. Like he's gonna take a lot of shots, and he may or may not make some, but he's gonna
He
keep
couldn't even dribble last night.
there.
The one-on-one pity pat is so annoying to watch.
I hate it.
I'm like, what are we
I
doing?
hate it. So I'm glad that I brought this up. Because the way that, and I've complained about this for years.
I'm shocked.
I'm somebody that gets over things very quickly and very easily, and I
Yep.
don't dwell on them at all.
100%.
It's the lowlights.
But the way that there's a little bit of self-awareness there. The way that the front office of Golden State, the way they were we were talking about being greedy the other day, right? Maybe it was yesterday. I have no idea what day it is. It's Wednesday, I think. But we were talking about being greedy and not how teams can't just take. We were talking about driving like in the passing game, right? Teams can't just take. They refuse to just take what the defense is willing to give them. They cannot do it because people just get greedy. Okay? You've got an actual generational talent in Steph Curry. You've got a team that you know you can win championships with. And instead of being like, hey, let's squeeze every bit of goodness we can get out of this core group, they're like, what if we built another core group simultaneously? You know what that is? Ego, greed, hubris, pick a word, but it's stupid, all of it.
So
Either you crack this thing or you get cracked.
You trade 2, 7, 14. That's Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody. Trade Poole in there with them, and you know what you can get? Another freaking superstar to get more titles out of Curry and company.
So you know what? And I'm obviously not a Chiefs fan, but you know my favorite thing about Mahomes?
What's that?
He did exactly what you said this year with this Chiefs offense early. I think he's top 3 or 4 in pass completions under 5 yards.
Yes, he did a really good job of that.
And I'm sure it drove him crazy.
Yes.
And he's a playmaker. And he, of course, as the season evolved, got more vertical in the passing game a little.
But he had to bring his guys to be able to
But
do
it was
that.
so, like, they look like this West Coast version of They look like the 2022, 2023 version of Joe Montana and the Niners a little bit.
There's Dinkin and Duncan. And
I'm like, you know what? I'm sure this is driving him up the wall. And people will talk about drops and how they need wide receivers. And they just kept stacking W's. I'm like,
he brought them along.
I'm
to
like,
a
you know
point.
what? Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do to go along to get along.
Just get through it.
And he's the nah, he's not the GOAT. He's the GOAT currently.
The current GOAT.
And he was able to do that. But it's very, very hard to do. Because I just think sometimes, and I know these people, I've worked with these people, I've seen these people. They just have to show you how smart they are. Like, why do we make it so complicated? Just play catch, or just run the ball, or just throw straight. It's always like, I put in the work, so come heck or high water, man, I'm going to show you. And it's almost like, but wait a minute, situationally, where are we at?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on real time? That's the steps, or a step, I think, that this particular football team, if we bring it back to sport like Nebraska, has to be able to do. I just talked about it with Nebraska baseball, right? When you have a favorable hitters count and you're swinging at balls being overly aggressive, like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
Right. See, right now I need to get my ass on base.
Yeah.
Not about hero ball. Like, you count could have easily gone 3-0. And then you have a little pressure. So I think the situational thing of, like, I know this isn't what I want to do, but this is what we better do in order for me to yield results. That's growth, especially in sports.
Well, and you brought up something there that correlates exactly to what I was thinking about. One of the things that Rule said yesterday, and kind of as a microcosm of the way he operates his program. So we will get to that coming up next as we wrap up hour number 1. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You were bringing something up. I don't know that it was directly related, but it kind of got my mind going a little bit. You were talking about what's needed for me in this situation, and talking about, okay, the Nebraska baseball game last night and being situationally aware and kind of breaking things down into smaller parts to understand, like, okay, this might be a good decision here, but it's not a good decision in this other situation. And it got me to thinking about an answer that Rule gave yesterday specifically, but it's something that I've noticed he does a lot. And that's really dissects things in a way that I'm not saying other coaches don't do it, but other coaches that we've at least seen here haven't talked about it in the same way. And the answer that he gave yesterday that I was talking about was he kind of broke down the offseason a little bit, where he goes, hey, you have to be great in the winter to give yourself a chance in the spring. And then you have to be great in the spring to give yourself a chance in the summer. And then you have to be great in the summer to give yourself a chance in fall camp, right? And then that's when you actually get a chance to see who the best players are and who's keeping the standard and that type of thing. And it kind of just struck me because usually we talk about the off season just as a whole thing, right? Oh, we got to get better in the off season. Sometimes we'll break it down into early enrollees and then summer enrollees, but that's about it, right? But this man, and you've seen him do it with other things, right? Where he goes, hey, it starts here. It starts in this one little spot. We don't get to do anything. You heard him talk about last year. We have to earn the right to go play Minnesota. We have to earn the right to go do this and that. We have to earn the right to go to practice tomorrow. His ability, and you even heard it with the Jamal Banks answer and the wide receivers answer, when somebody asked about press coverage, and he goes into like 18 different things to do with coaching wide receivers. And he's like, but you're going to have to ask Garrett about that because I'm not a wide receivers coach, or whatever he said, right? His ability to break things down into their tiny little parts to, A, make them seem more digestible when you're asking a kid to do it, and B, make sure you don't miss anything, I think is really probably one of the most underrated aspects of the way he goes about things.
So there's a couple things. Number one, just listening to that, I feel like there are those components in my personality that if you don't like me, probably drive you crazy, right? I'm a how'd we get here guy. Break it down. Let's get here. Let's talk about it. That way we can keep it from happening again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little deeper than topical stuff. Like if you're not built for that, it's like, oh man, here this dude goes again, right?
Yeah, it's tough to deal with if you're not wired that way.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's the main reason why I'm drawn to what he's doing, because he's in what I would call when you think like that, you're in the solutions business.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just sit around and bitch and moan about what the problems are. It's okay, let's take some self-inventory here. And when you do that and you get people to buy into that, that's how you can get change. When I'm what you just described so eloquently, don't ask me to spell it.
There's a Q in there.
Quently, something like that. I'm
You're not even Indian. That's pretty good.
I'm better at math than I am spelling, but don't tell my man Jamie. That's what I asked Schaefer yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I didn't know this is necessarily how he thinks, because he hasn't really talked about it the way that he did yesterday with compartmentalizing. I'm just drawing on what I used to know spring ball to be. And I basically said, why can't we just take spring for what it is? They're getting better in this phase. You remember this question,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
They're getting better in this phase. And it's not like a referendum on the team. It's just spring. And you guys both tag team. It was like Animal and Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're asking people to be rational. I don't know if I'm asking that. I'm saying, if you trust him and he's telling you this, and he hadn't even said this yet,
mm-hmm.
like, why don't we just listen? And you guys both told me that that's apparently too hard to do, because we got to let fans off the hook from just listening, right? That's basically what you guys were trying to explain to me.
That's not what I was trying to say.
Okay, so hang on, because I'll let you go back and get that.
Mm-hmm.
He's telling you, hey, winter we do this. This is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Spring we do this. This is the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Summer we do this. This is the goal. Then remember when I used to tell you, I was like, fudge. Like winter was where you wanted to. We do go through winter conditioning. I said, this is where you want to put yourself in position to go compete for a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, spring, you got to work on competing for a job. Summer, you're trying to hold the guys off. And in fall, if you're close, you got to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how and I've said this for almost verbatim, for as long as I've been behind this mic. And it wasn't, well, that was the only way to do it. It was just how the segments in the year
work out.
It's how coaches do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't pull back and just understand like that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm asking people to be rational. I tried to go back and reword it. What if we don't have to let it be so emotional about it? Like, what if it doesn't have to be this? And it all fits with the stories, right? It's like, what if we don't have a definitive quarterback? Do we need a definitive quarterback coming out of spring? Do you need a definitive running? You don't think with as good a groups as we had sometimes that we didn't know who the number one running back was going to be in come fall?
So
we always thought we had a chance.
So let me hit pause there, right? Because what you brought up is
press pause
is right, but there's an important distinction there, which is what I was going to bring up about the conversation yesterday, and that's context, right? The context under which something's happening is very important, because in the context you described with you guys, I believe you 100%. It could have been, but let's use a running back room, right? Could have been you, could have been Clinton, could have been Amon, could have been LP, could have been anybody on any given day, and everybody would have been okay in terms of the fans, right? Because we all knew you all could play, right? Everybody would have been cool. It could have been on any given day, could have been Tommy, could have been Brooke. Most people would have been cool, right? Because we knew both those guys could play. Go ahead.
I want to let you finish before I go ahead.
I think from a fan perspective,
okay,
that's how fans saw it at the time. Now, I know in the locker room, especially at quarterback, is a little different.
Okay, can I ask something real quick? And
Yeah.
then you go. How much of that do you think, try to remember, do you think had to do with trusting Coach Osborne more than knowing that the players were good? Because I got the sense you guys didn't care who we played because it was T.O.
So,
be honest.
I think that's hard to, honestly, I think it's really hard to separate.
To go back and get?
Yeah, because it's a chicken or an egg thing, right? We trust because of the winning. The winning happened because guys were good.
So when did that start? Because he wasn't always winning.
So he wasn't always winning at that level, but he was always winning.
Okay.
Right?
That's fair.
Right?
Yeah. I'll take it.
So
Even though at sometimes I didn't get the sense that was enough.
right, and I can only go so far
We're
back.
we're cool with saying that now because we built championships on it.
Yeah,
I don't know if we would have got the championships, would we have felt like that?
Sure.
It seems like he'd have been a little more closer to Bo than
Yes, sure.
right.
But again, we went back yesterday and said Bo was the last guy we felt like we trusted.
Okay.
At some point during his career.
So that's cool. All right.
So this is why the context matters for Coach Rule, right?
Okay.
Because we want to trust Coach Rule. We like what we hear. We are really, really close, and we trust him on most things. But the context of where the program is and has been seeds doubt.
You guys told me yesterday
Mm-hmm.
that, and you're like, we're talking a decade. Oh my God, I feel like I'm kind of getting bullied here. I know.
Mm-hmm.
But why do we have to go back? Like, why can't we stay right where we are and say, if I trust this guy, then I trust this guy?
Sure.
Because he actually has a track record
of doing this
for moving things forward.
So this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because I don't want to let fans off the hook. I agree that we don't have a reason not to trust Rule, right? And
not yet.
And he's given us lots of reasons to trust him.
He told you that stuff wasn't
Yes.
on him.
Right, and I get that. But you can say something's not on you. That doesn't erase it from the fans' experiences.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean the fans don't need to be a little bit better. And, like I used this example the other day, right?
I don't know if getting better is the term. It's just
recalibrating
or just taking a different vantage point.
But in order to take a different vantage point, a lot of times you have to do a little self-improvement, right? Like I used this example the other day when we were sort of talking about something similar where let's say you get out of a bad relationship and then you get into a really good relationship. Sometimes there's some things that carried over that happened in your previous relationship that make certain things either hard to believe or harder to work through in your new relationship. You know what helps with that? Going to therapy, taking self-inventory, getting a little bit better, right? That's where Nebraska fans are right now with coaches and the program in general. Still love it. We're excited about the new relationship. But there's some things that have carried over from the previous relationships that make it a little bit harder to trust all the way again. And so, yes, I'm not trying to let them off the hook, just like I wouldn't let a person off the hook. Like, go to therapy, do the work.
You know, and I'm with you. Like on the surface, I get it, but it's like I would say in any conflict resolution, the more mature person's got to go first.
Sure.
Right? Like, so sometimes you have to say, hey, I know I was wrong.
So in this situation, who's that? Who's the more mature person?
That would be Coach Rule.
Agreed.
So
and he is going first.
He's going first.
But we got to see a little bit to follow.
All right.
Right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
It might not be right, but is it
my
fair?
opinion on whether you think that that's fair or not is inconsequential. It's just not how I would handle it.
I get that's not how you operate.
Doesn't make it not fair, though.
I think that's how a lot of fans operate.
I'm with you.
Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7, coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now on the Hurrdat Hotline by Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, what's going on?
Not too bad, you guys. How are you?
Hi, B. How are we doing? We hanging in there?
Yeah. I played golf for the first time like a couple days ago, so that got my my competitive juices going a little bit this spring. So I'm feeling great.
Were you a strong 197 driver too, or how'd we get? How'd we do?
It probably about, yeah, it was about there. I was going toe to toe with my 70-some-year-old dad. We were about even, so that shows you where my game's at.
That's pretty cool. You guys do that all the time. A couple, over the years, man. That's a Christopherson thing too. Did you drag your brother along?
Brother didn't get out, but we got a couple little adventures planned this summer. So yeah, that's a good bonding time.
Sorry, BC. I'm super distracted because
Ravi's over here shook. I'm in his medulla oblongata.
Well, because it's outrageous, BC. I know you don't know my lack of athletic prowess to any real degree.
But he does know your irrational confidence.
No, I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I'm pretty self-aware.
Okay.
The things that I think I'm good at, I think I'm good at. But outside, I'm not going outside my.
This dude is bad.
I'm not going outside my comfort zone. BC, Damon's out here saying that it's more likely that Connor Happer can land a plane successfully land a plane, like everybody survives, and the plane also survives.
No, we're building in context. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Then it is that I can throw a decent 12-6 curveball.
That's okay. BC, I hate to draw you into this, but Ravi's not going to recover until we get clarity on this. What I said
I'm going to go outside and throw a curveball right now.
What I said, this is on the heels of Ravi telling me he would take the bump. This was Monday, and he would snap off a 12-6 curveball. I said, there's not a snowball's chance in heck you're throwing a 12-6 curveball. You may throw an ephus pitch, but you're not throwing a 12-6 curveball.
This is blasphemy.
So let that settle for a second. So he went back to it today, and
I didn't get drafted, but I can still.
I said, yeah. It seems like the probability should be about the same,
which is outrageous.
Even though I know landing a plane in theory is much more difficult, it seems like if you were to put a percentage on whether it could happen or not, in my head, it seems like it's about the same. And he's mad at me for that.
Yeah, because that's incredibly insulting.
I don't think either one of them can do it.
Which is incredibly insulting. That you think the percentage of doing a much more difficult task is higher than me throwing a curveball.
Well, you said if I gave you a couple weeks, and I bet if you practice crashing a plane, you'd eventually get it.
Not in 2 weeks.
If you could spare the plane.
Not in 2 weeks.
BC, this is what alphas do when they're competitive.
I'm bringing my baseball bat tomorrow. This is outrageous.
Dude, and I will turn that thing around and hit Cabela's with it.
Listen, I'm not saying you can't hit it. I'm saying it will act as a 12-6 curveball.
It will be an ephus. You'll be what's his buckets that had the 3-run error for the Tigers the other day and then gave up a 3-run homer. You'll account for 6 runs just like that. All right.
4, 6, I thought this all started with me talking about golfing with my father.
Well, so do you know what happened? He was making fun of me because I said I could go 197 off the tee.
You were making fun of yourself, and you internalized that.
Okay, maybe that's
what happened. I didn't say a word about your drive.
He looked at me like, dude,
you just said it was
like 197.
The only thing I made fun of is you go, it carried 191 and then it landed 197. I was like, did it hit a wall? Like if it carries 191, that thing should go 220. That's all I said.
I hate Ravi, BC.
Back
to the show.
I hope you guys got a curtain you can like pull between you sometimes.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to turn my back to him here in a sec.
Do you know a good couples therapist, BC?
I'm just listening, jotting down notes, and it's educational, and we'll get somewhere with this. I promise you.
Well,
all right, so listen, since everything said is kind of referendum on spring, we might as well stay with all hyperbole and say that one of Coach Rule's better press conferences of the spring. I mean, we rank every day, don't we? Every time he takes the podium. Yesterday seemed pretty deep, pretty philosophical.
Yeah, it was good. He's good up there almost every time. I think it's one of those things you appreciate as a writer, that you know when the head coach walks in, whatever the question is, he's usually going to turn it and have something for you that's either quote worthy or it's kind of interesting, or it's a sound clip that even gets picked up elsewhere across the college football landscape. That's new to the guys I've covered in that position. So every time I go over there, I never take that for granted, because this isn't a knock on previous guys, but I've had head coaches where you ask something and it's 5 words back, so I always like when it's the other side of the coin on that.
It kind of, BC, it feels like, and maybe I'm reading too much into it because we like him right now or whatever, right? I don't know.
Situational. Did you catch his right now, BC?
Well,
it all could change.
It can, right?
Yeah.
If they start 0-2 again, I'm guessing people will feel differently. I don't think that's inaccurate, right? But it seems like there is a certain level of, and I know part of it's just he's just a good orator and things like that, but I think there's a certain level of confidence in who he is and what he's doing in terms of his process, that he's not afraid to talk before the results come. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yep. He's been there. He's had success doing it with a certain method, and so I think right now people are inclined when he speaks to look at his track record and say, like how it sounds, and I also have some data on the paper that suggests that this is going to keep climbing over the next couple of years. And so, yes, we're in that season of optimism where whatever gets said, you kind of want to turn it in the most positive light. I did like, though, that he separated, the seasons up. Like you had the quote, you got to do well in the winter to give yourself a chance in the spring, and then the spring, the summer, and so on. I actually would nod my head to that, because sometimes everything you write in the spring or put out there gets accused of sort of being just like overly optimistic. And it's like, here, drink this Kool-Aid, fans, dive into this. I've always tried to tell people, whatever is written in the spring is a spring story to me. It's like, this is a person or whatever that's rising within camp and is possibly making noise on the depth chart. Now, whether that means this person we're writing about or this topic is going to translate well against Wisconsin on a cold day in November, I can't say. But you can separate those categories and not think that everything, if a guy's positive in April when he gives a quote, that it's some, dramatic statement about how it's going to be way better on October 8th or whatever. And so I don't know if those 2 points connect with what Rule was saying, but it does. That's how I feel. It's like, you got to just separate all these in the stations and realize you're right now we're in the spring part. So, you're just trying to see like who's rising up the depth chart, who's doing what's maybe improving somewhat. And then it's hard to translate what that's going to mean in the fall, but that they're giving themselves a shot with some of the stuff that seems to be on the climb.
You talk about putting things out there and, being transparent. Like, it's always like he's a couple of steps ahead. BC, give me your thoughts when you listen to this. Shane play Rule clip 4 on the transfer portal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anybody on our team wants to go in the portal, it's open today. That's their right. Obviously no one has yet. I don't anticipate anybody going in. When we get done with spring, we'll have a couple days to see if something's best for them. Our guys are really transparent. We've had players on our team already have people from other teams contact them, come in, walk in, say, Coach, look at this, show us a text message, show us this. It's a sad state of college football when, but the problem's not the players. Let me start there. The problem's not the players. So I love our guys. I want everyone to be here, but I also want them, we had guys transferred to other places last year. I've talked to their coaches. I've talked to them, how they doing. And once you played for me, you play for me for life. So, maybe it's a unique challenge in terms of some guys like, but we're pretty transparent with our guys. Like, if they want to come talk to us, we're here to talk to them. I ask the coaches after scrimmages to meet with guys one-on-one. I'm always available. So,
BC, thoughts?
Well, I mean, I just think it's someone who trusts the setup they have. It's just like, here's an open door. There's a transparent process where we feel the communication is always open to the players to if they have something to get off their chest, we're there to hear it. And when you feel like you have that open to the other side, or you're in it together, you sleep probably a little bit better at night during periods like this transfer portal cycle, because you feel like you do have a transparent relationship or a good feeling about how maybe the other side feels more than some other programs. And I believe that they believe that they've got that sort of relationship with their players starting to go. And, if there's 4 or 5 guys who, in a couple of weeks decide, what, I do need to explore something that maybe helps me individually a little bit better. I think it's the proper practice now as the head coach to not let that ruffle your feathers too much, and just know that's part of it. We've got a lot of guys who are really seeing that they're getting better within what we're doing. They're trusting in the relationships we're building with them. And we're going to lean into that and put our attention there instead of focusing on what could happen with this guy over here or that guy over there. Until there's a problem, why make it a problem? Like it with the portal, like why speculate about this guy or that guy? Just keep working on your relationships and your craft over there. And if someone decides that they have a better opportunity, you wish them well and you move on. That's college football now. I really am appreciative of the fact, all around the country, like in our 24/7 sports network, it was like a national holiday yesterday a little bit at some of these places. Like, okay, the portal's open, who's going, who's coming. You're making all these lists and stuff like that. That's good for web traffic. So I guess we would take that. But honestly, that's not a thing here. It just isn't. It's not. We're in a different space than a lot of places across the country. And I hope people kind of understand that and appreciate that we're not talking about the portal near as much as everybody else in most area codes. So it is different here right now.
BC, like, what do you think happens first? Is it the coaches getting a chance to know the players where you feel good enough to talk about the things publicly, like they know their audience, or you whittle it down to the players that are the most secure, that are able to handle and have the conversations when he just puts things out there like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think it's just a two-way street, and you work that first 12 months, especially on the job of building that what that second part you're talking about, where a player feels like this guy on the other side, this coach, when I go in his office, it's not just all about what I can do on 3rd and 5 or something like that. It's the conversations are as much about other things a lot of the time as football, if not more so. And I think if you truly have that care about people and you build up that connection, then when you get to the football conversations, or like a player who's like, I do got to maybe explore something. You've had other conversations that are more real, honestly, than the football stuff potentially that I think help you with that part, where you just feel like you can have those things. It's just like when you have you build up a friendship or something, you can talk about anything, good or bad, or I'm weighing this decision. What do you think? And so I think a big part of it really with coaching, it with all this stuff that's in the air with college sports now, Garrett McGuire said it yesterday, it still comes down to relationships. It still comes down to, like, a player wants to look at that guy and say, I trust that person. I know that person wants the better for me, whether it's here or elsewhere. And so I can go have that conversation and not, like, sneak up on anybody that I'm entering the portal or anything like that. That does happen on occasion, but I don't think there's a lot of that going on with Nebraska. I mean, we could go back to the last time the portal was open. There was a thought that many more people would jump in than did from Nebraska. And a lot of guys have let it play out through the spring and see what happens. And I'm sure there'll be a few who depart, but
yeah, the numbers alone would dictate you have to do something.
Yeah, they would. But considering what's going on across the country, again, I go back to what my previous point. Like, we're in sort of a strange air with this. You've got a lot of, second, third year players in this program who are still building up, and maybe a few of them head out. That's possible. That's the climate now, and they might see that the depth chart isn't quite slanted like they want it. But I don't think there's going to be some mass exodus. And there's been times when people have said, like, oh, in December, like, oh, is there going to be, 10, 12 people leave? And, people ask that question, and it was pretty quiet, really, relatively speaking. So I think it's going to be the same around here. There'll be a few scattered here and there. But I don't think there's going to be anything, or there's not going to be much that sneaks up on this staff and shocks them when it happens, because I do think they are building connections where guys are coming to them and having those real talks before stuff hits the public, and that's a big thing, to have that.
We're talking with Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, you hit on something there that I think is important, because we do hear them talk about relationships a lot and how that's important in the foundation. But I think sometimes people think, like, oh, because I like my coach or I like this guy, then I'll do what he says. When I think you hit on something, an important distinction there, where you go, hey, if you're able to talk about real stuff, then the football becomes easy, right? So if an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid is trusting you with his life decisions, then the football decisions follow naturally, right? Is that kind of what you mean?
Absolutely. I mean, there's stuff happening with these guys, like all of us, that, you know, like I get on here and just talk about football or Husker stuff, but obviously you guys all have other things going on in your life, and there's things that are good and bad and all that. And if, you know, you have those people that you can have those conversations with, yeah, when you get to the other stuff, you're going to feel like there's a trust there, and you know, that's going to be an easy conversation compared to some of this stuff. Like I know Terrence Nyson was up there a week or two ago. And he was talking about, I think it was Elijah Judy. And, you know, Elijah Judy had like a life event and had a kid and things like that. And it was really exciting for him. But like last season, you know, he's got a lot on his mind. Like, and everybody on the outside looking in is just talking about a player, you know, like, what's he doing on the field? Why is he not getting more reps? You know, that sort of thing. I'm not saying we were like locked in on Elijah Judy or anything. I'm just using him as an example. Like, you get like, okay, what's happening with this player on the field? And you can get focused on that. Well, they got a lot of other stuff happening too. And these coaches are in on it. And if you have that sort of connection where you've been there with that person going through life events and things that we don't even know about, some of these conversations shouldn't even be that hard after that, you know, like you're just getting to the football part. So that's what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like if the player feels like you're that coach who's all about the stuff that really matters in life with them and wanting their betterment as a person, with their school, with their life outside of the field, the on-field discussions then, I think kind of pale in comparison. So I think that's what they've tried to build, and there's really a genuine effort to have that with players, and it helps them in situations like this. And the coaching staffs who do have those connections are going to thrive the most still in this era, where people are coming and going, because they're going to have players that are candid with them, you know. And so we'll see how that plays for Nebraska, but I think they feel like they're in a good spot with it.
Do you find it fascinating that, you know, he can continually bring up, you know, the fact that they didn't win or they were 5-7, and he's very good at weaving it into their progress, where it doesn't stay in the player's frontal lobe. They use it as like a building block, right? It further shows, because I don't know, like if I was a fumbler or something like that, and you always talk to me about, hey, if you don't fumble, you have to know your players to a certain point where you can reference something and it's just the truth, not an indictment or a life sentence. You know what I mean? Like you can move on from it, but let's say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah, and I think it's useful. Like, let's go to the defense, for example. A lot of people have patted them on the back for fair reason for last year. What they did, I think, under a first-year coordinator is pretty amazing, you know, to be top 10 in some of those stats. But you hear Tony White get up and talk, and he can just as much speak on that, but then in the other sentence say, yeah, but there was this over here, there's that over there, third down, you know, getting more takeaways, only had 13 of them on defense last year. That isn't going to fly. And I think it comes from a place where players, you know, they're like, yeah, that's not going to work, obviously, because the record was what it was. So I think that's important. Like on the defensive side, for example, as good as they were, you could bring up like the last drive against Iowa where the kid gets loose for a 25-yard run, or Maryland's last possession. There's all this stuff where these players, you know, that's stuck in their craw too. Some of those games. They're a competitive bunch of guys who have been here, some of them 4, 5, 6 years in the program. They didn't come back to go through another 5-7, you know, like Ben Hart, Ty Robinson, Giff. Those guys left things on the table, as Gifford would say. And so I think the coaches are just speaking right into their language with a lot of the veterans, and then that filters down to the newer guys. And, you know, hopefully then you get sort of a cycle going there where it spins around year after year like that.
It takes such singular focus and leadership, because, you know, I'll be honest, there are a lot of guys that were sick of seeing minute 16 on the clock, right, in the summer during workouts when you knew you lost in a bowl game. But then it was like, you could remember a guy like Ed Stewart saying, if you don't want to feel like this again, then we need to make sure we do everything in our control. So there's like this moment where, okay, but your team has to be built or at least the culture has to be strong enough to sustain that without looking over your shoulder, right? It's because you're trying to move forward. I think that's the beautiful thing if you can get something like that to work out, because he constantly says we were 5-7 last year. Like they know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he sometimes pairs that, and I'm obviously paraphrasing with the thought, and I think he's right with this. It actually is pretty positive around here about a lot of stuff in the off season. Like we like to get, I mean, we like to get excited about like viral videos, you know, whatever pops up from Husker athletics and stuff like that, and think like tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday, and that's okay. I think that's a good way to live. But I think sometimes Rule wants to balance that, and it's just like, yeah, that this is good. We are trending the right way, but yep, you're 5-7 until you're not. Let's go put the work in today, and got to do it again tomorrow, and then we'll see where we are on August 31st.
That's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7 BC. We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, B.
Yep, thanks, guys.
We will be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Want to remind you, Saturday, April 20th, Omaha Supernovas are back at home against the San Diego Mojo, 6 p.m. at the CHI Health Center. Make sure you get over to supernovas.com for tickets. It is one of just 3 home matches. I always want to say games.
That's okay.
Home matches left on the season. So make sure you get out and support Omaha's Pro Volleyball Federation franchise. It's April 20th. That's this Saturday.
It's a lot going on April 20th.
A lot going on.
You got playoffs, NBA,
got
hockey,
a bunch of spring games.
We were going. So
The
it's
list is
even
crazy.
yeah.
Go
It's
to
a lot.
supernovas.com for tickets. Anyway.
It's a lot more than we were even texting back and forth about. Like, it's a big day for spring games.
Yeah, it is.
I watched Penn State with Caleb, and I watched Ohio State with Micah the other day. And I'm just thinking it's hard to kind of glean, especially what's Clemson, who else? Purdue. It's hard with the formats.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean,
because I didn't love Ohio State's format, but I get how they're excited.
Sure. I think there's a part of it where
I saw DJ Lagway. We saw Lagway at Florida.
Yep.
Lagway.
I think you can get
Lagway.
I think you get what's happening with my mic there, Shano?
I just remember
He flipped them.
I flipped them so that they're right now, so I just have to redo some adjustments.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay. I think it's really hard to gain much from those. I think you get individual players sometimes.
It just depends on the format.
Right. I mean, in general, like generally speaking, because there is no consistent format, because a lot of it doesn't necessarily look like real football, depending on what format coaches choose. I think there's individual stuff you can tell a little bit. Like that's where a lot of my thoughts on the defensive line came from last year with Nebraska.
So and I don't know yet. Like they haven't told us
What it's going to look like.
the format.
Yeah.
And he may wait to decide and see how everybody feels. But if the spring game is like Saturday, I would be for that.
Because it was more like football.
It was exactly
It was just football.
Without the special teams.
Yeah.
Because you get different groups against. It wasn't their old, like the teams, like the buggy. It was, ones versus twos, twos versus ones, threes versus twos, it was just kind of mixed up. He just would say numbers, and those teams would come out, right?
Yeah.
But it looked exactly like football. So
I think
if you do that, you can get a pretty good gauge, because that's how I know how to do it. But and listen, we would still cry and whine. Well, that's because they got to go against the twos and they're not as good, or give me the one offense. We would don't let me act like we didn't act like that.
But at least it was real.
But it is real football.
Format wise, it's real.
So
football.
we kind of changed it, right? We had guys that would say, it doesn't matter who you're going against. It should look like this.
Yeah, you still got to execute.
So like we kind of got over that. But if it looks like It did Saturday. I think I'm pretty cool with that. Even if you mix and match. Like I'm not one of those guys what's like, well, if you put this player with this player and this player with this player on this offensive line, it would look different. Like the spring game teaches you to look at individual things as well as team things if you want to, right? Was that a good ball, whether it was caught or not?
Sure.
Was that a great catch on a bad ball and that's not sustainable? Was it a good run, or he was very efficient with that run given the block or whatever? Like you can do all those things if it's live and guys can be tackled.
Do you think that the reason so many coaches have changed formats is that because you can't tell anything? They don't want people to be able to tell anything. Like as things got more televised.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you think they
know if
shifted away from
I
real
don't know
football?
if it's as much schematics, like you don't want to show your route concepts versus I don't want to get guys hurt. I don't know which it is. Probably a little of both, I would guess.
Sure.
But he said something that sounded pretty profound, but it's not really. He said, how do you get better at your craft if you don't work at it?
Yeah, right. How do you get
that sounds pretty simple, right?
You say it all the time.
But
like, how do you get better at football without playing football? Right? It's pretty hard.
But he made it seem like, yeah, well, duh. I think I agree with you. So why don't more people do it? Well, more people don't do it because they're not willing to have bodies buried. And they are apparently willing to take what comes with.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said that yesterday, right? Where he's just like, hey, like, you don't want guys to get hurt, but you have to be like, you can't get better without taking that risk.
Yeah.
Right? There's a risk reward.
You talk about saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. Like it's football. People are going to get hurt. That's what it is.
Sounds different, doesn't it?
If you're trying to go be a boxer and you're afraid of getting concussions, like maybe you need to rethink your line of work.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not something that's going to work out well for you. Whereas if you're a football coach and you're afraid of people getting hurt, and you're afraid of soft tissue injuries or whatever, he mentioned I think it was
a couple
yesterday.
Days ago with guys with some soft tissues, but he said they're at kind of that wall point too.
Well, and he also said, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple days ago when he spoke on Thursday, he goes, but nothing's happened that affects anybody for the fall. Right. And that's what we were talking about yesterday with.
Oh yeah, he did slide that in
with strength and conditioning and the way people are,
You
conditioned.
think I break down pressers?
Oh, I get into the weeds. I love his pressers.
That was a little sneaky good. I forgot he said that.
Yeah. And I mean, I get 3 days worth of content out of his presser, so I love it. But the thing that we were talking about yesterday was, yeah, you're going to get some soft tissue injuries, especially in football. You're going to get some contact injuries. But if your strength and conditioning and your trainers are right, you shouldn't get those long-term injuries unless something freaky happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
In which case you can't really do anything about that anyway. Like that's not something that you can really control. So you control all the things you control, like we're talking about. You take ownership over all things you can control, and after that, you kind of let it play.
Yeah.
Let's get to was it Jay? Is that
just
online?
Jay, Shane?
Yeah.
Let's get to Jay on the hotline here. Wants to talk about Coach Rule. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay, good morning. How are you?
I'm well, man. I was trying to call a few days ago. And sidebar, you can't hear you guys on the radio when we're waiting on hold.
Yeah.
So I have no idea if you said anything that I'm about to say. So please forgive me.
It's okay.
If I'm going to repeat anything.
It's totally okay.
I think I was going to say that. I think that every good coach has a little Mr. Miyagi in him, right? And this is definitely an original Karate Kid reference. In saying that, I mean, like, there's tons of stuff that you might be doing and you have no idea that paint the fence leads to block the punch and the kick. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have no idea that, you know what I mean? Obviously, wax the car is the, you know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of tedious and, soul-wrenching type of things that a coach may have the team do in order to build the character needed, you know what I'm saying, for future things or future situations. So I think every good or great coach is calculated in a way that they understand that they have to put more emphasis on process than they do accolades, right? And that procedure and the little small meticulous things that go into making something great are more important than all the things people see or the results. So as a fan, from my perspective, and I'm a little bit callous. We've been through this a few times in my fandom. I was very reluctant to even like him or like just buy in completely, just because obviously, I'm still, getting over the Frost situation. But like now, you can see his consistency. You can see that, the proof is coming in the pudding. Like you're hearing kids speak, you're seeing the retention in the program. You're actually seeing or hearing about practice described in ways we haven't heard in years. And plus the fact there's a lot of Omaha talent on the team. I just feel like we got something. We got something that I think that will change Nebraska football for the next 10, 15 years.
No, I appreciate.
We're excited. Now, I don't think we win the national championship next year, right? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're at least turning the ship. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that, Jay. There's something in there that he said that I want to get back to about the intentionality, but maybe not knowing real time.
Let's get to that when we come up next and wrap up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube here from the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. Speaking of which, coming up on April 26th, Team Jack is having an event. Team Jack Live here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar in La Vista. Amir Abdullah,
Kenneth Bell,
and one Nate Geary is going to be here, all to support Team Jack. All ticket proceeds go directly to the Team Jack Foundation. That is a 5:30 p.m. show. Doors open at 5 p.m. To get tickets, go to eventbrite.com and just search Team Jack. That's going to be the easiest way to do it. There's a URL if you want to go to Hurrdat Sports Bar on Twitter, but easiest way to find it is go to eventbrite.com, search Team Jack, and you will be able to get tickets for this great event, Team Jack Live, to support.
That's a good trio too. Like if you want people to,
that'll be a fun group.
Be authentic.
Yeah, that'll be a fun group. And, some of the better guys we've seen in Nebraska in the last 10, 15 years.
And, I'm a big, well, actually all those guys, but yeah, it's good. That's a good group. I'm going to go back to something Jay said about, it kind of sneaking up on you. Basically what he was saying, right? You didn't realize that, hey, those brush strokes, that was my defense, or, polishing the car. Like I have to be able to do that over, and it's applicable here. What's funny is even somebody that's done it and knows that it works, I still don't realize, like when he says it, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's absolutely right. But even when I'm watching it happen real time, I don't mean like I should know.
No, but you've been through it, so you have a different perspective than other people.
It's sneaky to me.
Yeah.
And I've done it, right? So when I see them do a drill over and over and they're gassed or they're a little bit frustrated because, you feel like you had good leverage, but it's not top shoulder, right? What's the difference in here? Is it 2 feet, shoulder to shoulder?
Yeah, about, I think for most people, depending on how big you are. But
so you're talking about 2 feet, right?
Yeah,
roughly. And the level of frustration that could mount the third time you have to do a drill in a row, and you're literally talking about moving it over a foot.
Yeah, 18 inches, a
right?
foot, 2 feet, whatever. Yeah,
and how people receive that. Because it could
seem like you're nagging.
For us, it's annoying.
Yeah, it can seem like you're nagging on something that is not important.
Right. And like over time,
it can be seen as not important, not that it's not actually important.
Over time, it's like, top shoulder means top shoulder, or running through a catch, or like, what does that mean? I don't know if I told this story out loud, but on a Thursday, I was down there with some coaches. One of the Thursdays, there's only a handful of us, and we're watching a couple of drills. And Coach Coop stopped talking. I think I did say this out loud. And Gifford took over. And he kept saying, not like this. And I'm telling you, the player had to do it. So there's a group of 3. They're going against 3. It's one at a time. So it's bang, 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 bang. Same guy had to do the same drill, like 4 reps in a row. Coach Coop stopped talking. Coach Gifford
took over.
Player coach Gifford. Yeah.
No. He stepped out of line.
Yeah.
He was second or third in line in his middle section and said like this, then demoed it, then kind of took his legs and did it for him. Like, it feels like this. I just did that to Zoe to figure out my nephew's gait for the dogs at his house on Sunday.
Yeah.
No, Zoe, I don't want to do it for you. Give me your hand. This is what it feels like. Push down and then up. So she did it down, then up. She's 5. So imagine being a player.
Yeah.
Having another player
18, 19, 20 years old, whatever.
kind of move your legs for you. It feels like this. You have to be involved in a culture with the peer-to-peer thing that allows for that to happen and have you not be in your feels.
Yeah.
Right. You also have to have players that have the technique down enough.
Yeah.
Where they can teach it. A coach that feels comfortable enough to turn it over, to let it happen organically. It's not like he said, hey, show him.
Yeah.
He stepped back. So there's growth there. And I guarantee you, like, once you know what it feels like and you do it over and over, whether it's going through pain, whether it's pushing through sore legs, whether it's getting through a practice where no hands on these, no hands on these. Then you go to the second day, no hands on these, no hands on these. Then the third day, no hands on these. Then at some point, you just don't put your hands on your knees, right? You don't. And what happens in the third quarter or fourth quarter, instead of just putting our hands up, you can put your hands up and you can really believe in fourth quarter where you know what it feels like to come out of the back end where you can reference the tedious stuff.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just sneaks up on you, but it is absolutely a real thing. Fall back on your preparation and training, right? That's like it's a military thing, right? What's my preparation?
Trust your training. Trust your training.
And it lines up. What he said just lines up beautifully with how else do you get better at football
than by playing football?
It sounds, I'm telling you, like you wanted to get your skirt and pom-poms on. You're like, no, wait a minute. It's not super profound.
Almost nothing he says is.
And he'll tell you that.
But he
goes, I don't know why you guys get like that over what I say. Go back and listen to me 5 years ago, and it sounds similar.
Right, but then go back and listen to Nebraska's coach 5 years ago.
But here's the key.
But that's why the context matters.
Here's the key, though.
Yeah.
So when you say you feel good, my buddy texts, he goes, I could say this out loud. This is as good as I felt. See, the comp it's not bad comp to bad comp. It's not because this wasn't going well in 2020.
It's not even about it going well.
It's just
different.
It just is. You're getting better at football, and you can safely say that. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but I know one thing: hard pressed to find a player that's worse in 2024 right now than he was in 2023. And that's what are you doing in the meantime until you start stacking W's?
When I say you can't compare it to what Coach Rule was saying 5 years ago. You have to compare it to what Nebraska coaches were saying 5 years ago. It's not to say that, and listen, I've been as hard on that coaching staff as anybody. It's not to say that they didn't do anything right. It's not to say that they didn't know what they were doing, but the way they communicate is dramatically different. So it sounds so much different. That's why it feels novel to us, even though he's been saying it for 5 years.
I remember
it is novel to us.
I said, a lot of good coaches say this. We're just not used to it being said.
Yes. And also, he does sell himself short a little bit because he said the same thing about.
He's just self-deprecating enough where it works.
Yes. Whereas, like, he said this kind of same thing about Bill Belichick when he was coming in for the coaches clinic, where he goes, hey, the genius of Bill Belichick is for him to make things so simple. We see that a lot with Coach Rule. And I'm not saying he's Belichick, obviously, but there's a similar ability to translate information in a really simple way where it's kind of like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Right? Like when you're trying to help somebody figure out, how to get their money under control, it's like, well, hey, have you made a budget? You're like, oh, that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I probably don't know where my money's going until I know where it's going.
Like, how would you're pretty secure, right?
Sure.
How would you feel like if I took your right hand and I was like, no, the stroke feels like this?
Yeah, it's probably a little awkward.
Yeah.
But again, I'd probably
is it easier for an adult or for a kid? Because could I convince you that adults should not take it as personal as somebody younger?
Yeah, but they will. They'll take it more personal.
Okay, so it's probably harder for
Sure.
18, 19-year-old, right?
Again,
even though we have more habits formed.
It accountability is a sliding scale of mastery of the subject and trust in the person delivering the information, right? So
I get, yeah.
Obviously, Gifford has to have mastery of the subject, right? But he also has to have the trust of the person he's instructing to allow him to do that, because otherwise they'll just resent him for it. You can have as much mastery as you want in something. If the person that you're talking to doesn't trust you, they will resent you for the thing you're saying, even if it's right.
Yep. But a talented running back room can't coexist unless you trust the guys that are telling you the information.
Yeah,
I get it.
And that goes from
I get it.
That goes
100%.
from Coach Solich in the room. That goes to the other guys you're competing against.
100%.
If you don't trust those guys, then that gets real toxic in a hurry, right? That's the biggest difference to me. Is there? I'm not denying that there was some level of mastery of the subject with previous coaching staffs, right? I don't think the trust was high enough in order to make it work for whatever reason. And I think in certain position groups it was, right? 'Cause you saw certain guys get better. You saw certain groups thrive, especially in 2022, the defense under Chenander was pretty good. And you saw 21 was pretty good. And you saw some things that you like, but there wasn't enough of that combination of both mastery and trust to ever get you to the place you wanted to be.
That's funny. I just think of like real life examples that are kind of petty, but the same way in terms of people we want to do business with or that do business for us. I asked one of my former players has a lawn service business. So I asked him yesterday, I knew that they put down whatever. I'm not even going to pretend to know some something. And we had their dandelions. So I texted him and I said, hey, did you do this, and this? And he said, yeah, they appear to be a little more airborne this year. We'll come back with round 2 on whatever day. And I said, hey, man, I trust you. You could tell me, next full moon, they'll all die, and I believe you. And he goes, well, I wouldn't go that far, but we'll get it eradicated. But it was a trust thing because I've seen
you've seen the results.
I didn't even know if he didn't even really answer the question if he put the stuff down.
Yeah.
I just figured they get it under control.
He'll figure it out. Coming up next, we're going to talk to the one, the only Kevin Kugler here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, and KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're here on the Pillar Exterior stage, and we are joined on that Hurrdat hotline by the one and only Kevin Kugler. Kevin, how are you this morning?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
K2, how we doing, buddy?
So excited to have the chance to say words to you, Damon Benning, and to Ravi as well. What a thrill this morning.
Oh, gosh.
Well, we appreciate. We're glad we can give you that opportunity, Kevin.
10 seconds in, at least you're consistent. This isn't. I guess it's a little bit of a downtime. I know you got the UFL, but you're not juggling like 3 sports that overlap in a deal, right? Like, is this a baby deep breath, even though you're still like gainfully employed?
I've got baseball Thursday night, Diamondbacks Giants. I've got UFL Saturday and Sunday, and I've got White Sox Twins on Monday. So it's a little busy still.
There's a little bit going on. Sports. That's
but instead of every day, it's like every other day. You're fine, right?
You're right.
Two's better than 3.
I gotta know something other than White Sox aren't very good, are they, AJ Przinsky? Okay, I've blown all my knowledge there. I gotta have something else.
You know what's interesting though, and I'm not gonna poke fun at the White Sox because I love Nate the Great Klaus, and I know he's a diehard White Sox fan. But I used to kind of make fun of them passive aggressive for this window supposedly open from like 16 to 15 to 19, where they had this young talent, and nobody could stay healthy, and now it just came and went just like that.
Yeah, there's no window anymore. They're in a windowless house at this point. They're looking for a door. I'm not sure there is a door. They're basically boarded up in a giant refrigerator box, and that's where the White Sox are at this point. It's really bad. And there's look, I'm sure there's some talent in their minor league system, but that's a ways away. So you're talking about a team that and it's not like that's a power division, at least you wouldn't think on paper, although the way the Royals started this season and Twins, I think, are pretty good. I mean, maybe it's a better division than I'm giving credit for, but it's not a division that you can't look at each year and go, you know what, with the right players, we couldn't make a run. That's the frustrating thing, I'm sure, for White Sox fans, is that it's really bad in a pretty pedestrian division.
It's cooled off a little, but the team on the other side of the town that you're a big fan of, is this about what you I know, listen, 17 games, you're not making any crazy declarations, but, I mean, I have them in the playoffs, so there's your kiss of death, so enjoy that. But do you like their start?
I think it's okay. There's warning signs for me. They didn't spend a lot on their bullpen, and I think that's showing. Especially last night. You
At 12-11 final?
Two outs in the ninth inning. Well, and that was part of the problem. You knew going in that you were likely going to have to score a lot of runs last night because Kyle Hendricks has been awful. Kyle Hendricks looks like his road is about over. When you don't have the movement or the velocity, his key was always the movement without the velocity, a la Greg Maddux. Well, it doesn't have that anymore. It's not moving. It's just floating down the middle at 85 miles an hour. And you see guys like Jock Peterson turn on that ball and hit it 8 miles out of the ballpark. And then so you run into a situation where you're forced to rely on a shaky bullpen, and you get to the ninth inning with 2 outs and nobody on with a 1-run lead, and you give up a home run. There's just no room for error with this team. And look, the top of the order hasn't exactly hit well. Not one of Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, or Cody Bellinger is hitting above 240. So you've got the top 3 in the order, which has struggled. You've got a pitching staff that's being taxed at the back end. I mean, they've done yeoman's work to get to this point. I'm not overly frustrated with a start, certainly. I think they're right there, and I think there's room to grow, but the bullpen is a giant red flag for the Chicago Cubs.
Kevin, I want to change gears on you a little bit here and talk about the UFL. It's something. It's kind of an interesting situation, obviously, with the 2 leagues merging. Do you think they're set up better for more success than we've seen out of recent attempts at either spring or alternative leagues?
I think the first thing, Ravi, that you have to have is a commitment from whoever is backing it. And I know that this league has that. They have the commitment from The Rock on one side, from Fox on the other side, to try to make a go of it and see if it's a sustainable thing. So far, the TV numbers have been very good for this. You're averaging 800,000 to 1 million. And look, is it the NFL? No.
Mm-hmm.
Is it pretty good football? Yeah. Are there some innovative things that I think should translate over to the National Football League? Absolutely. The transparency that you have with officiating in this league is fantastic. I think it would solve so many problems for people if you knew more about what was going on with the officials. And you always hear it in this. Everybody's mic'd up. Mike Pereira or Dean Blandino in the replay center, all of their stuff is piped into the stadium, so everybody at the game knows what's going on and what you're looking at. I love that aspect of it. The first down line is fantastic. The ability to measure that without having chain gangs come out, I love that. There's a lot of innovation that you can take from this league and I think move into other leagues. And that's what a spring league should be. A spring league should be an experimental league for things as well. And I love the fact that they are doing that in the UFL.
Okay, how much of it has to do with the fact that, and I don't know how this actually works, but we've seen other TV package deals, and we're like, oh, okay, they're connected, but yet it doesn't work. So far, you mentioned the viewership numbers. It is spring, and that hasn't had a great track record. Which lends more credibility? Is it the Fox partnership and the TV deal? Is it the quality of head coaches and recognizable names? Because all we've ever heard is, well, it's a quarterback-driven league. They don't have good so therefore it's going to look like. I don't know, man. I watch it, and I know the schedule times. I know I'm going to get an 11 or 3 or a 12 and 4. Like, I get the times. I get the brand. What's making this thing work going forward?
I think the first thing you have to do with any spring league is establish a realistic set of expectations. What does work mean? I think they'd love to see bigger crowds at the games. I think that's the next step for this. But for a league to work initially, it has to have a certain base of viewership. But it doesn't have. You're not going to have NFL viewership. I mean, we had a game this year in week 6 between the Eagles and Jets that was 26. We had 26 million people watching a game. You're not going to get that for the UFL. That's absurd. That's a week 6 NFL game in the late afternoon window. That's wonderful, but you need to beat the stuff that's on in the spring around you, or at least compete with it. What is that? Maybe a NASCAR race, maybe a regular season Major League Baseball game. How about an NHL playoff game? Well, if you look at the numbers from last week, the UFL is right there with all of this stuff. It's in the mix with NHL. It's in the mix with MLB games. It's not going to be a 26 million person project of viewers, but if you get 1 million, you're doing pretty well. And you're right there in the mix with everything else. And that's how you can sustain this. Can you compete with what's on right now? And so far, the UFL has been able to do that. Then you add in storylines that'll develop as the course of any season goes. You do have recognizable head coaches like Wade Phillips, like Bob Stoops. You've got names that you recognize as football fans. And, you know, there's occasionally a guy out there you go, hey, wait, I remember him, or I remember that guy. And then you get to see guys like Adrian Martinez live out their dream and really have a nice game like he did last week in his start for Birmingham. I would assume, I have them this week. We'll talk later tomorrow with Skip Holtz. I assume he's going to get the start again this week. I don't know why you wouldn't with the performance he had last week. So there's reasons for college fans to watch too, guys that you used to enjoy as they try to make it to the next level.
I think they have the number 1 offense in the league. Like that's a fun team to watch. Do you get the sense in these sit downs that the coaches that have had such storied careers in other places are enjoying what they're doing too?
Skip Holtz is loving this. I mean, it's his first chance to coach professionals. And as the head coach of Birmingham the last 3 years, all they've done is win down there. They won 2 USFL championships, and now they're undefeated in the early stages of this UFL season, including a win over last year's XFL champs, Arlington, who've struggled out of the gate. But he loves it. He raves about it. These guys really seem to buy into what he's selling, and it's sort of a mix of college camaraderie and professional coaching. I mean, he's been around a long time. Obviously, his dad's Lou Holtz, so there's a background of coaching that he's grown up with all of his life. He's been a successful college coach. It would not surprise me to see this turn into an opportunity for him somewhere else, somewhere down the line, if he so chooses. But, you know, he's an older guy. He feels very comfortable in his own skin, and he loves what he's doing. I mean, he's having a lot of fun with this. Bob, this is the 3rd year Bob Stoops has coached professional football. He was in the XFL. He was in the XFL version 1 when it came out. So he loves the ability to coach these guys. And I think for some of these guys who are in their retired years, and I put retired in quotes because they're all working, but it's allowing you to coach without the full year-round commitment of I've got to go recruit, or I've got to go sign free agents, or we've got to run mini camp, or we've got to run OTAs, and we've got to do for an NFL coach, or especially a college coach with the portal these days, you are looking at a 24/7, almost 365 a day a year job right now. That is not the case with these coaches. They are not having to commit 12 months of the year to running these teams.
We're talking with Kevin Kugler, voice of pretty much everything, if you've gathered from our conversation so far. Didn't mention the Masters yet, but he did that too.
Well, that's coming.
But real quick before we get to that, Kevin, do you think it's important for a spring league that, whether it's the UFL or any other spring league that may or may not end up being successful, to have some kind of relationship with the NFL? Because that's something we've heard a lot of, it kind of being a symbiotic relationship where, whether it's a feeder league or developmental league or whatever. How important do you think that is, or can a spring league exist and to a certain degree thrive on its own?
I think it can. Look, I think the most ideal situation for any spring league, whether it's basketball, minor league baseball, whatever, is to have a relationship with the parents above, whether it's the NFL, whether it's the NBA. I mean, one of the things that doomed the CBA, other than Isaiah Thomas back in the day, was the fact that although Isaiah was the biggest reason, was the fact that while it was quote, the official developmental league of the NBA, it didn't have that relationship where you could send a team. You didn't have 5 teams affiliated with the Omaha Racers and they would send their players down to play in Omaha. I think that would have really made the CBA thrive. I don't think the UFL has to have that, although I think if you got to the point where the Chicago Bears were affiliated with X team and the New England Patriots were affiliated with Y team, and they sent 3 or 4 of their practice squad guys to play in the spring league, and you knew as a fan of the Bears that if you watched the Birmingham Stallions, you were going to see 3 or 4 Bears players, 3 or 4 Vikings players. Maybe each team in the UFL is affiliated with a division in the National Football League. I don't know. I think that would be an ideal situation if you're somebody who loves the idea of a spring league, but I don't think it's imperative that you have that. And the reason I say that is it's thriving to a certain degree right now. The numbers are so good out of the gate, and it hasn't really faded through 3 weeks against some pretty stiff competition. Now, remember, this league started early, and it started up against the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And then last week goes against a holiday weekend. The 2 weeks before goes against the holiday weekend. It goes against the Masters. It goes against the Final Four. I mean, you're looking at some pretty stiff competition, and it seems to have held its own in relation to the expectations that you would have for those viewership numbers. I think you have to be really encouraged if you're a fan of football year round that this is off to such a solid start.
One of the most recognizable voices in sports. I almost hate to do a reset because it's like duh, but talking with Kevin Kugler. Tim Johnson, I have one more question about the UFL. You've done it. You do college. You do the NFL. Are there any rules? There's a couple. I'm curious to get your thoughts. Are there any rules you'd like to see kind of tried out in the NFL, or is it because it's such a viewing behemoth you'd like to leave well enough alone?
I think it would be fun. I know they won't ever do it, but I think it would be fun to see the UFL's extra point rule in the NFL, where there are no kicks. There are no extra point kicks. You get 1 point for a play from the 2-yard line, 2 points from the 5, 3 points from the 10. That would be so fun to watch. That or not that you can eschew the onside kick and go for it on 4th and 12. We saw it last week for DC. They went for it on 4th and 12. They converted. They kept the football, and they went on to win the game as a result of that. Instead of an onside kick, and maybe you make it 4th and 15 in the NFL, so it's even a little more degree of difficulty. I don't know, but 4th and 12 is the rule in the UFL, and I think that's fun. That adds a little bit of excitement. It all comes down to one play, but it's pressure on both sides, which I think is really cool.
I've tinkered with the kickoff thing, but for me, I'd like to see an 8-point game not have to be a tie with a 2-point conversion. I like the opportunity to get 9.
Yeah, to win.
Right, with some of these quarterbacks in the NFL and that kind of game, I think that would be pretty cool.
Can you imagine Andy Reid drawing up something from the 10-yard line to win a game with a 3-point conversion in clutch moments? That would be awesome. Can you imagine then the criticism that would come when you could have run a play from the 5 and tied the game, but you were greedy and you went from the 10? What were you thinking? Why would you go for 3 points? Oh, I would love.
I kind of this may be asking too much. What do you think about the anytime challenge?
I don't know. I'm torn on that one. And
because it doesn't even have to be called. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It can be a non-call. Like you can challenge that you thought the left tackle. Remember how we always had these conversations NFL season? The left tackle's moving early all the time. He's moving early, and it's not getting called. You can force the officials to look at it, and they can drop the flag in the UFL for a false start, which you cannot obviously do in the NFL. But they only get one of them, and it's not as if you get it right, you get it again. That's it. There's a challenge. Once you've used that challenge, I love that part of it because I wouldn't want it to continually be a renewable challenge. Coach Jones got 32 challenges in the game because he got the first 31 right. I don't know that anybody wants that as a viewing public or as a broadcaster in the booth, but I do know that it does provide an interesting twist that you can ask for a penalty to be called. Hey, they didn't call hold on that guy, but that's the only thing they look at. They won't look at anything else. So maybe there's a false start and some guy broke out like a bag of nickels and hit somebody on the back of the head. They won't flag the guy with the bag of nickels. They'll only look for the false start.
Well, you'd like to see the bag of nickels called on the field originally.
You would. You'd think that would get called.
But you never know. You never know.
Somebody's got that bag. Who knows?
It's a big field, and there's only so many officials. Hard to see the bag of nickels occasionally. Kevin, let's switch over to the Masters. Obviously, over the past weekend, I think a lot of people kind of felt like it was anticlimactic on Sunday, the way Scotty Scheffler kind of just squeezed the life out of the rest of the field on Sunday. But I guess, what does it feel like live as you're there? Because I'm sure it's one experience to watch it on TV and be like, there's not a ton of drama there, but there's got to be a certain amount of tension as you're watching it unfold, regardless of what the specific scores are.
You know what creates the tension, Ravi? It's the fact that you don't have your cell phone. And it's not because you're tense about missing a call. You're tense because you don't have the full picture until they put it up on the manual scoreboards across the golf course. So you can't always be checking to see, oh, look, Scotty Scheffler's now got a 4-shot lead, or, oh, look, he went into the water at 12. You don't know that until they flash the score up at various locations. That's always been the charm of Augusta National, is that you're sitting in the stands at Amen Corner and they pull down the back of the scoreboard and they push up new numbers. And on Sunday, you're watching it and you hear the collective gasp, or people cheer. People cheer for a dude putting a red number up on a board because it's changed the entire picture of the tournament as you sit at Amen Corner. That's where the tension comes from at Augusta. It's not because you just don't have the full picture. You can't be checking with, your phone to see, oh, hey, look, I just saw on Twitter that Oberg dunked it in the water and on 13. He put it in the tributary to Rays Creek in front of the hole. You can't check that. So you don't know until it flashes up. That's where the tension comes. It's honestly, I love it. I love the fact that they don't have cell phones out there. First, it forces people to engage with others. And while I'm generally against that as a principle, I don't hate it at the Augusta National Golf Club. And secondly, it's just that kind of fun thing where you have this crowd moment in the stands where all of you are reacting to a manual scoreboard. It's like sports watching had to have been in the 1950s or 60s, and that's kind of cool.
It's interesting just listening to you talk. I'm always thinking, gosh,
it really is. It is interesting listening to me talk. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
But I got to say this with the Sterling's retiring and Vern Lundquist and you doing what you do, you have to kind of stay motivated, right? I get the gainfully employed thing, but your level of greatness is, it's there, and I'm not asking you to admit it. And you have X amount left in the tank, but do you have a peer that motivates you for level of consistency as you get into kind of? You're.
How old do you think I am? This is ridiculous.
I think you're.
How much I have left in the tank?
I think you're mid. I think
they're
you're
in
mid
their 80s, Damon.
Listen. My point in this is you always have this barometer and benchmark, and you and I have never talked about it. But you're not just doing it to be doing it either. Otherwise, maybe you are. But you are great. Like, you do want to be great. What's the benchmark, the baseline? You're seeing some good ones, man.
Yeah, I enjoy watching guys like Sean McDonough. I enjoy watching guys like Ian Eagle. There are people who I think do it the right way, whatever that means from a broadcasting standpoint. We're not going into the portal and paying players too much, but we're doing it the right way.
Development. Recruiting.
It's all about the recruiting.
You say only 50 some odd, but man, you're going on 30 years.
This is really a depressing way to start your day.
I'm encouraged.
When are you going to hang it up like John Sterling and Vern Lundquist?
You started so young. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the way that people it's like you say, Kevin. Oh, you got Kevin Coop. You Kevin Coop.
We are peers. We are peers in age, Damon Benning. Just to keep you reminded of that.
And I can say full disclosure. I hope to be 1/8 of I just, you know what I mean? It's encouraging in one vein, but I'm like, there's just so many. It's hard to be good, but you wouldn't be in such high demand if you weren't. Something has to keep you going.
Well, I mean, apparently I'm just outrunning Father Time at this point.
Wow.
Just 1 foot in the grave, just trying to keep it out.
Here we go. It's I know. I'm an easy target. Get me, Kevin. Get me.
My college teammates John Sterling and Vern Lundquist have decided to hang it up. So, I was talking with them the other day over coffee, and I told them I might stick around for another year or two. Trying to catch Euchre, he's at 90 right now, and that's my goal. If I can just hang on a couple more years to get to 90.
Yeah, that lunch we had a couple of months ago, that was great. But that's not happening ever again.
Kevin,
I was very happy to talk to my favorite Benning last night. By the way, I don't know, it wasn't.
Wow.
Kevin, you look great for 85, though. I mean, it's incredible.
Thank you. Ravi, it's amazing that I can remember how to answer the phone when you guys call.
Bunch of jerks.
Luckily, Michelle is here to help me go. Push the red button, Kevin, the red one.
I always knew you outkicked your coverage. Go, Michelle.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it, Kevin.
Wow.
That is Kevin.
Goodbye, Damon. Goodbye, Ravi.
That's the one and only Kevin Kugler of Westwood One. And
next time, I'm not going to give him a compliment.
Everywhere else, I mean, there was this little backhanded roundabout.
Wow.
We'll be back.
Wow.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. And I've got to remind you to get out to Lauritsen Gardens for the Brickosaurs exhibit. Much like the dinosaurs, it will not last forever. It ends May 12th. You got to get out there and see the incredible brick sculptures out at Lauritsen Gardens. And the cool thing that me and DB found out on Friday was they're surrounded with plants that they would have been around when they were alive as well. That's how it connects into the gardens portion of it. It is a super cool exhibit, but not going to last forever. You got to see it before it goes extinct. Go to lauritsenGardens.org to get tickets to Brick Live Brickosaurs down until May 12th.
What was
TK is exactly right. Shane, you're vouching for me. I just got Kugler, didn't I? I mean, that was the epitome of Kevin Kugler. Didn't want to take the compliment.
I didn't want to.
And I'm not listening to you because you're
I do.
You're like
what I do.
Is dense as Play-Doh sometimes, malleable, but not very see-through. Like
Speaking of being dense, though, I gotta be honest. That was I don't hear words very often where I'm like, what does that mean?
Dense?
No, Pollyannish.
Oh, like old school, I
had to look it up. I did. I had to look it up.
Sounds like a dinosaur name.
Well, he used prudent and Pollyannish in the same.
I know what prudent means, but like I don't know that I've ever heard the word Pollyannish before.
We typically would. And he's younger than me.
Yeah,
and a little older than you, so you don't hear that term a lot for people in his generation.
Yeah,
it would be something my mom would say.
I had to go back and get it. I was like, I don't. I kind of got it from context, but
yeah, I'm mad at you for gassing.
What I do?
Because so what people don't realize is, and yes, we're roughly the same age, but he's been great at his job for 30 plus years.
Yeah, he's been getting after it for a long time.
He's only in his 50s. So let's say he just gets into his gets to in his 70s,
which is pretty normal for that industry. If
he will have been brilliant at his job for 50 plus years.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's bonkers.
What's anybody else been good at for that long?
Nothing.
That was my point.
That's fine. No, I got your point.
No, you didn't.
No, I did. I got you.
Nope.
I understood it.
You were baby kid. You're the little blue stuff that I use when I don't want to use lighter, that I put the match on, and it's a slow burn. It keeps the coal smoldering when I don't want to use the hay. It's called heating gel. That would be you.
No.
I think that was kind of backhanded. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. He totally deflected the compliment and buried me with it. It's happened to me before.
So 100% being honest here, it's because I want Kevin to like me.
Oh, he's tough. So either he does or he doesn't. It ain't going to be because of your goods and it ain't going to be because of your good deeds.
Well, I can still try, right? Because a lot of people, especially,
he's tough.
I kind of feel like an outsider because I didn't really get into the industry while he was still local.
You're not under his coaching tree.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
and so
which a lot of us are.
Yeah, a lot of you guys are, whether, especially over at the old place, like that is, and so I always kind of felt like a little left out because he was gone before I started doing anything in terms of doing daily stuff there. And so I've always been like, oh man, he seems super cool. Like everybody talks about him like in such a like a reverent way almost, but he's still this guy that's super kind of engaging and charming and like and helps people out. You know, I know like Nick Boss talked about him a ton. I know you've talked about him a ton.
Bish,
And
Severe.
So like everybody, right?
Josh.
And so I'm this guy on the outside being like, well, I want him to like me too.
He has that
Everybody.
He has that sneaky good Coach Mac coaching tree.
And so, you know, that's you know, so if I see
I wanted to be like Coach Mac.
If I see an opportunity to maybe ingratiate myself a little bit, I'm probably gonna.
It was childish.
Listen,
My man,
that's fine.
It's not prudent.
Maybe it's a little Pollyannish of me to think that I can get myself into his good graces, but I'm still going to try. I'm still going to try it out a little bit.
I like the fact that my man can talk about Drake, Future, Morgan Wallen, and then come back and use terms like Pollyannish.
Yeah, he's versatile. He's versatile.
That's range as an orator.
It is range. I will say one of the other things I wanted to talk about from Coach Rule.
He is staring that portal dead in the face. And I think he knows it, right? I mean, people will leave that you don't expect to leave.
I just don't think he cares. I don't think he cares.
That sounds a little. That's the quiet part out loud. I'm in agreement.
Yeah, like he cares about the kids. He doesn't care about the portal.
I think he thinks they're so secure in what they're doing. I'm going to give you every opportunity. If you feel like it's something different, I'm not going to talk you into or out of something. I can just present you with what we do, and you're here to do with it what you will.
Yeah, you can't talk somebody into wanting to be a part of what you're about, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you can show them why it's beneficial. You can give them all the love and support and whatever. And if they still want to go, then at that point, you got to be okay with it. And I think that's where I say he doesn't care because he already knows he's done everything he can to try and help that person be successful. And if it's not for them, then they can go. That's fine. That's fine. And maybe there is a better fit for them out there.
What do the kids say? Deuces.
Peace out.
It's the lowlights.
I mean, that's what we're seeing from Colorado right now is a bunch of kids saying deuces. But don't worry, Shiloh and Shadur have the DMs open to did you see that?
I'm in utter shock. You go ahead, really, DB? You didn't see this coming?
No, it's not even that. I'm shocked.
I am shocked that that it is allowed to be so.
You wonder why I think that thing's a dumpster fire? It's not just Dion. The way they operate is nuts.
I don't understand how it can work.
It can't. It can't. That's the point. You know why Dion won it at Jackson State? Because he had better players than everybody else. You know what he's not going to have anywhere else? Better players than everybody else.
Did you see the fan
At some point, you have to be good at running a program.
Gosh.
Right? At some point, you have to be good at running a program.
Like it's the program is him and his kiddos.
And Shadur and Shiloh. Because apparently that you DM Shiloh if you want to play defense. You DM Shadur if you want to play offense. I don't know where the coaching staff fits into this equation at any point.
Though,
if I was a coach,
we have to be. I'm gonna rest in the fact we're missing something because
I don't think we are.
We have to be.
Are you sure?
How could you coach like that?
That's what it is.
No,
I mean,
that's talking about your assistants.
Why do you think there's? I mean, like, why do you think like Sean Kelly wasn't really a good fit for what was happening there? You know, like why do you think some guys were not vibing with what was happening there? I think they wanted an opportunity. They saw it on the surface. It was like, hey, I'm going to have an opportunity to coach really good players at a Power 5 school, and we're going to get after it. And then they saw what it was. And it's like, okay, not for me. Because I can't imagine, unless you're like one of his inner circle guys or somebody that is just vibing with the clout chasing and whatever.
What was the NIL table agreement? It was $20K to eat privately with Dion, and it was 17 to be seated close. 17.5.
It was, that was close. There was an NIL fundraiser dinner, which we're going to talk about. I don't think we ever got to. That it was 20. I think it was more. I think it was like 23 to sit at his table. It was 17 to sit at a table adjacent to him.
Yeah, but not eat with.
Yeah, but not actually at his table. It was like 15 to sit with players, and then it was like 12 to be in the room.
Interesting.
And you're telling me this, like, you don't even want to get me started on the professor thing the other day.
So here's the deal. they're 1-0 against us. So I always reserve judgment because
That doesn't mean he's doing things the right way.
No, I understand, but
like both can be true.
Yeah, but they still have scoreboard.
I'd rather be 0. I would rather be 0-1 against Dion than operate the program the way he does.
And over time, you're probably right.
Like
I
will take.
I don't see how you're gonna be wrong about that. But
that is not a sustainable method.
And because you know what you're gonna, what I would say,
it wasn't sustainable for a whole season last year.
What I'm telling you though, okay. On the other way around, you know what I would say? I'm so bad that I beat you. I'm running my program in such utter chaos that I beat you.
That's fine.
So there's not much you can say after that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can still look myself in the mirror, so that's fine.
And Nebraska ended up winning more games than Colorado, but they didn't beat them head to head.
That's fine.
That's just, I mean,
I would rather lose to Colorado again this year than operate.
See,
listen. Than operate the program like he does. I'm not making that trade.
You say some outlandish things.
I am not making that trade ever. Not in a million years.
How many of those wins would you have to get? Just the one over Colorado?
What do you mean?
Because I almost always rather win as long as I'm not cheating.
I would almost always rather win, but I would if it takes operating the program like that to get that win, pass. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Coming up next, we'll wrap up the show. DB will probably disagree with me some more. That's fine. We'll be back on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up the show here on a Wednesday on AM 590 ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla.
He's incredible.
We are brought to you by our friends at Warhorse Sportsbook. Make sure you get to Lincoln or to Horseman's Park here in Omaha to place bets at the best place to place bets here in Nebraska. Keep your money on this side of the river. Help out your hometown team, city, state, however you view it. Go to Warhorse Sportsbook. You can bet on just about every major sporting event, live bets, props, parlays, in-game, whatever you can think of. They've got you covered. Go to Warhorse Sportsbook. Get the Warhorse Sportsbook app or go to warhorsecasino.com/sportsbook to get a full list of house details and rules. That's Warhorse Sportsbook. No bets, no glory. What are you talking about? Him throwing his coaches? It's like, coaches are the worst. I don't want you to hear from them.
Guess what? That's not the first time they're hearing that either.
Yeah.
He said that like
can I parse that a little bit?
I'm just telling you, I'm gonna bang this drum until we get why it works.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't ask anything of his players that he does not put on his staff.
Mm-hmm. Can I parse that little thing a little bit though? Because Nick Boss said something, I don't know, it was probably a decade ago at this point, where he's like, as a coach, you can never ask a player to do something in a game that you haven't already showed him how to do in practice. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I'm thinking about that as he talks about this. I go, okay, by the time you get into the game, how much should you actually need to hear from the coach, your position coach or whatever, right? Obviously there's, you're getting plays in, there's that part of it, but how much should you actually need to hear? Like maybe little cues, reminders, whatever.
You hear it from good coaches all the time. Game day is not about us.
Right. So turn the music up, stay out of their ears.
Game day is for players.
Because at some point you got to,
it's a celebration of your hard work.
At
have fun.
Some point you got to let go of the reins, right? And that's on game day. That's what I heard when he said that.
And sometimes
because I think people could think maybe he's just making a joke.
And I can think of a handful of times. Some we never figured out, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen post half, Bellevue West made some adjustments in the ground game against us, and they ran away with that thing. Couldn't stop the bleeding, mm-hmm. right? Millard South a couple of years ago showed us some things out of bunch formation and a 3-by that. I mean, it was basically a coverage beater for us that we couldn't get until half, and so stuff like that happens. But you know what you can't do? You won't say, "Hey, man, bottom of the numbers," or widen your split, or "Hey, this foot forward."
At some point, you got to stop coaching.
Well, it's just an indictment that you haven't done your job.
Yeah, that you didn't prepare them enough beforehand.
You have to just fix that later, right?
It's like I got to get that one next week.
Yep, note to say.
That's on me.
And that's really that's where.
And that's hard to do.
That's what was going on with those analogies. See, having get our head beat in some concepts and coverages gets you ready for the next time around. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it,
But
In
coaches,
game.
because they're control freaks, think they
Yeah,
can.
we'll try.
They think they can fix it in
And
game,
then you'll
and
end
you're
up
just going to
doing-
make it worse.
Yep, you'll end up doing something that's
You're
kind of
just-
made up.
you're
and
just
drawn
gonna
up in
make
the
it worse.
sand,
Yeah.
but- So it's like,
And how often does that work?
it's just, that's why I laughed when he said it.
Yeah.
He's like, it's not that he's making fun of the coaches because
I'm sure he does the same
funny.
thing. Yeah.
It was that that was an answer of a guy that's seen it so much. Like,
Too many times.
coaches are the worst. Like,
Because they can.
you don't say
Yeah.
that and not have seen it over a huge period of time.
It's like parents, right? Like you're still going to have a certain, not that I would know, but I'm somebody else's kid, so I get that.
Mhm.
But there's a certain point where either you raised your kid right or you didn't.
Mhm.
Right? At some point, you got to let go of the reins and trust them to make the choices that you prepared them to make. And either they're going to make good choices based on that, or they're going to make bad choices based on that. But there's a certain point, there's not a damn thing else you can
I
do.
understand, but you know what's hard is to watch your
It's
kid
to
get
actually do
ready,
it.
get hit by
It's to get laid out
Yep.
or to get beat deep. Or like I get it. It's
Oh,
hard to
yeah.
watch, but you also have to recognize nothing I can do anymore.
God, that is the delivery, the whole nine.
Coaches are
They're
worst.
the worst. Because it just yeah.
Can I talk about something else that we've sort of been talking about all week with something that he said again yesterday?
Maybe.
And sort of prepare. Thanks, Shane. Appreciate the permission there. Wasn't asking.
Well, you asked.
I was asking.
You didn't specify.
I was asking DB.
Yeah, I have zeros these. So
Yeah, it was more just like rhetorical and a courtesy more than anything else. I wasn't actually looking for a real answer.
I worked hard in school.
Do you?
yes.
He said yesterday, we kind of focus on the portal thing a lot, but one of the things he said right after I don't think it's prudent to coach guys with the portal in mind. He says the worst thing you can ever do for a young person is to not have high standards for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I flip that because to me, that's only one side of the coin, right? Because in order to have high standards, in order to coach guys to meet those high standards, and in order to have like a functional relationship, the best thing I think you can do for a kid, and maybe I'm wrong because I don't have kids and I haven't coached for a few years, is give them permission to fail. Because if you don't give them permission to fail, they're never going to meet those high standards.
You don't even have to go to kids. It can be in relationships.
Anybody,
How
right?
many times have you heard people in relationships say, well, can't you just love me for me? Sure. I absolutely can. It doesn't mean I'm going to condone the behavior, though.
Yeah,
I don't not love you because
You can still expect better or different or growth.
every time I hear that response from people, whether it's
It's an excuse for them not to take accountability.
or to try to change the behavior.
Usually it's an excuse to
Like,
not take accountability.
I-
Why can't you just
I
love me for
can
me?
still love you as a dad or whatever,
And still want you
not-
to grow.
and not condone the behavior.
You can still want them to grow.
As a matter of fact, if I didn't care, that's
That's where you-
probably where I would be like, hey,
That's where
man,
you should be concerned.
do what you want to do.
That's where you should be concerned. Is if you stop.
I never understood why people would say that. Well, if you love me, if you loved yourself, you wouldn't rest in that.
Sure.
That's what I want to say.
Or if
but not
you-
everybody's built to handle that. Right?
Or if the love was reciprocal, then you'd understand, like, I'm not trying to change you, but I think we both need to grow in this situation.
And that's why I love the dynamics between player coach, because if there's that mutual respect, like if a player, it is a lot like real life relationships. If the player has the coaches, if they put their needs first and the coaches put the players' needs first, you don't have to reset the expectation. It's built-in checks and balances.
Now, you might have to clarify sometimes.
Oh yeah. It
But
doesn't. Yeah, it's not on autopilot.
You start from a place where everybody wants what's best for everyone else
Hey,
involved.
you care about me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and coach says, hey, listen, I care about you, right?
Mhm.
Player says, hey, coach, I care about you, right?
I care about you.
And there's a lot of power. There's a huge difference between saying and but.
Mhm.
Hey, I know what you just said about throwing a 12-6 curveball made me feel like this, and I want you to know, versus but I want you to know, because but means you're pushing off the point in order to get to what you want to say. Like you're kind of being dismissive.
And as you're acknowledging,
it's at least acknowledged,
Yeah.
and then you can go. But we can't even get to that point sometimes in functional dialogue. But when you do and you can receive it from
What'd Coach McGuire say about listening a lot less, or listening a lot more and talking a lot less? When he said that, I was like, I know I like that guy. My dad told me I could learn 90% of what I need to know if I just listen. But it's amazing though, because you can just you get a feel.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with the player or not, just the fact that you know where they're at
will help you adjust accordingly.
100%.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And how it fits within
Because
the culture that's already being
if
established.
you don't understand where they're at, or you're not willing to listen where they're at, you're going to be a worse coach, a worse teacher, a worse partner, a worse parent because of it.
They use a lot of teaching, like
Oh my gosh,
like
yes.
academic
Mhm.
ideology.
Yeah.
To coach, and it I feel good about that because it's like practical application, or when you say coaches are teachers, because that's really what they are.
Ideally, yeah, they should be.
Good ones.
The good ones are. And I think we sometimes think at the college level or the NFL level, it's not that anymore, but there's always something to teach.
And NIL has changed our expectation level too. We're a lot more cynical and critical because
no more harsh.
There's money involved.
Yeah.
And I always wondered when we were going to go with the NIL thing, are the student athletes prepared for the scrutiny and the rigor that comes with the fact that
for the shift in how people view them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just how,
because it is different.
What's his buckets from Colorado was vilified on Twitter. I mean, he was getting ruined.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's like, "Oh man, leave the 20-year-old alone."
Mm-hmm.
And I get, you go in the comment, well, 20-year-old was making more money than I am. You got to be able to deal with. So people use that as a
shield,
for their vitriol,
for their bad behavior, right? Good stuff there. Well, I'm sure we'll get into more of. There's a bunch of stuff the Coach Rule said yesterday that we didn't get to yet. We didn't get to defensive backs today. We'll try again tomorrow. You never know. I promise we will get to every position before August 31st. I cannot make any promises that'll happen a day before that. August 31st.
I thought you were at least going to say Friday the 26th.
Oh, God, no. I can't imagine that's ever going to happen. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. This is Hurrdat Sports Radio.